chat has used for it before. Um,
Hmm.
so anyway, I just wanted to show everybody. This is the person that we're talking about here, by the way. Daniel Buchanan. I'm pretty sure that almost everybody has seen a picture of this guy before, seen him around, and knows that he is all kind of bad news.
He lives like 2 towns over from me, by the way. This was actually my biggest fear in exposing this. This guy lives like 2 towns over from me.
Oh wow, yeah,
Yeah.
and he's definitely heavily involved with the what would you call it? The white identitarian movement, the
Um,
neo-Nazi movement.
so he is very proud of being involved in the white well-being movement or white positivity movement, which is kind of like neo-Nazi light, to be honest. It's like they don't label themselves as nationalists or anything like that. But what I will tell you, and this is not something I wrote about in the article, is that there are legitimate neo-Nazi groups in New Hampshire that love this guy. I don't know how involved he is with them, but I know that they really like him because I've seen them post about him a lot.
Interesting. And he's yeah, and I remember one of the first things that I noticed when you were kind of going on this crusade, right?
Hmm.
Was that you were pointing out the fact that anti-white, which seems to be all over his page, actually, I guess I'll just let you explain how you see the term anti-white, right?
So the term anti-white is very, very, very specific to this white well-being group that's led again by Jason Kona. He goes by No White Guilt, pretty much everywhere. And what they're trying to do, and he writes about this in his manifesto. It's called Going Free. You can literally get it on Amazon. Apparently, he's got a new edition out that I'm going to have to read at some point and suffer through. But in the edition that I have is so there are entire sections about the fact that they want their lexicon and dialectic to exist in the public zeitgeist. So they are very focused on their specific language and their definitions of that language getting used in pop culture and in the media in order to help recruit more people to their cause. Their main term is anti-white. They also use anti-whiteism, white erasure. They hate the term racism. They do not use that term. They consider that to be anti-white. They also consider Jews to be anti-white, by the way. Like that's the reason they insult me by calling me a Jew is they consider that to be one of the ultimate anti-white things. They do not like Jews at all. And so their whole focus, and again, they have this is not just one or two people. They have teams of people that are coordinated to go into different online discussion groups and to target different influencers. So they will actually they targeted Tucker Carlson to get him to use anti-white. They targeted Blake Masters, who's running for Senate in Arizona, to get him to use the term anti-white. They've targeted the New York Post to get the New York Post to get use anti-white. And every time they have a victory, they celebrate this victory. This guy, Jason Kona, does several streams a week rallying these people up, trying to teach them how to do it, giving them marching orders, talking to them about different things. They also have I haven't quite figured out where they're coordinating yet because I think they have like secret Telegram groups and things that they're coordinating in for their outreach teams. I haven't gotten access to those yet, but I will at some point. And so like they're coordinating all this stuff in the background. It's actually terrifying. But the term anti-white is the thing that they are most interested in. And I have in the piece that I wrote about it, several clips of them flat out admitting that Daniel Kincannon flat out admits that his goal in writing that letter of resignation was to get into the national media so that he could spread the anti-white language. And he says spreading the term anti-white is the most important thing that we can possibly do.
And the other guy who has multiple streams a week, it was Jason what?
Jason Kona, he goes by No White Guilt. His last name is
Wow.
Kohna. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Robin DiAngelo, for that, for popularizing that term. It's really
I know,
appreciated.
right? Well,
Yeah.
someone's got a link to the ADL. Did the ADL actually do a write up about this? Because I actually contacted the ADL when I first started figuring this out. I actually contacted the ADL about this. I was like, "You guys need to look into this," and they said, "Nah, not interested." So I'm looking at that write up that someone posted in the chat because
Really? So they said,
yeah,
what did they say they were not interested on the grounds of?
they just didn't think it was. They didn't think it was that big of a deal. Oh, look at this! They wrote this after I contacted them. This isn't what I mean, these are similar groups to what I contacted them about. No, I have an email back from the ADL. When I wrote them, I said, you need to look into this group. And they said, nope. I was trying. I
Interesting.
was trying to get all media. I contacted the Washington Post. I contacted the New York Times. I was like, okay, conservative media doesn't want to cover this. I will get someone to cover it. I got American Conservative to write up a little blurb about it where they were like, this could be a problem, but we aren't really sure yet. Oh, yeah. I had evidence of the wazoo. Barry goddamn Weiss. Barry Weiss knew about this. Barry Weiss knew this was a problem. Barry Weiss had a reporter come and talk to me, never published it. I tried everything to get people to cover this. It wasn't until I was turned down at every single point that I bit the bullet and started researching it myself. And I spent weeks researching this. It was like 8 to 10 hours a day watching white identitarian content every day for like at least 3 weeks. Because no other reporter or journalist or outlet or any site like the ADL, none of them would cover it. None of them would look into it.
Yeah, it's this entire thing by the ADL is literally how oh, yeah, literally how these people are traveling to different anti-CRT protests to basically do what I am unfortunately very familiar that these groups do, which is pass out little leaflets or pamphlets that is just full of like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and rhetoric, right?
Yeah, so these people look like they're part of like the White Lives Matter movement. Which I actually like literally have the White Lives Matter manual sitting on my desktop right now. It's crazy. This is actual neo-Nazi stuff, but this is
Yeah.
like this movement is like one step up from the people that we're talking about right now, but Jason Kona is connected to these people. His literature is all over their telegrams.
So what would you say about the White Lives Matter movement? Would you say that that's is equally probably a dog whistle, or do you think that that's
Those people are dangerous.
okay? So you would say that White Lives
They're,
Matter very dangerous as well. Okay, I mean I'd agree. I'm just curious
yeah,
because
so White Lives Matter has they have groups in all 50 states and many countries. There are at least 50 people in every White Lives Matter group. There's one that I think the largest White Lives Matter group the last I remember was like 500 people. There are a lot of these people in the country. So when I talk about white positivity and white well-being, again, that's like entry level. That's who's pushing the anti-white language. Daniel Kincannon is white positive or white well-being. White Lives Matter is one step above that. That's like just one very small step below actual neo-Nazis. These people are dangerous.
interesting. Okay, and yeah, so you've been yeah, and this brings us back to where we are today. You've been going at these people to like really nobody listening to you for months and months and months, and then they find an opportunity to kind of do a consistency check on you on something completely unrelated. You're arguing about abortion, right? And you,
Hmm.
being who you are, even though I would obviously disagree with this strategy and rhetoric, decide that you're going to go ahead and just play into the consistency check. And now you are being canceled for being the very thing that you have been trying to speak out against. That's just
Yeah.
like obviously I wish that you had not responded the way that you did, but more than that, I wish that people had kind of looked at it through a more critical lens of like, okay, well, I can understand that in the context, like this is probably her just defending her like spiritual beliefs, and I definitely disagree with those spiritual beliefs, and maybe I even do think that those spiritual beliefs could lead to some problematic outcomes. Maybe you do feel that way, but the weird thing is that the same people who are now calling you up for this were telling you to basically shut the hell up about the actual Nazis that you were yelling about for months and months and months.
Yep.
So why are they okay with them, but you are so easy to quickly condemn and just send this cancel mob after? That would be what I think is like important to be skeptical of. That's where I think that people are kind of missing the forest for the trees, regardless of how they feel about what was said. And that's what I just wish that I could encourage people to be a little bit more, I don't know, introspective about.
I mean, listen, I have no regrets about anything that I said. I refuse to play into this idea that I should not be able to express what I believe because someone else might act irresponsibly and use it as a gotcha moment. I absolutely refuse. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so, though I do understand your perspective as well. Don't think I don't. But like, also I wish people on both sides would behave more responsibly. We don't all need to agree. We don't all need to be best friends. But the fact of the matter is that you are right when you say that I'm actually one of the very few people who I have gone full guns blazing at the really bad people. I am one of the very few people who has done that publicly. And I have taken a lot of beatings for this. And to be so interested in canceling someone that you completely overlook all context. There are absolutely nefarious actors in this whole scenario that were trying to drive cancellation of me because they hate me or because I've called them out on their bullshit before. But I expect average people who are involved in this space, to be honest, to be a little bit more introspective and to be a little bit more interested in context and to look at the broader context. And if you don't want to live up to that standard, I'm not going to worry about whether or not you want to cancel me. It's just not like cancellation doesn't really, I mean, honestly, like do anything. I've been canceled like 5 or 6 times by the right in the last year. Like it's annoying for a couple days and then it goes away. I just wish people would behave a lot more responsibly and be open like you are to actually having conversations about it. And we don't need to agree about spiritual beliefs. It's faith. That's why it's called faith. I don't expect everyone to believe the same thing I do. I wouldn't even encourage it.
Yeah, I
But I
mean,
do expect that people behave responsibly.
if we can start from the perspective of like you don't have a problem with Jewish people, you think the Holocaust was bad. I know you even said the number 6 million during like the Hunter Avlone talk that you had earlier. So like you're not one of those people that's like, oh, it was bad, but I questioned it. Like you don't send off any of the like red flags for me as being an anti-Semite or a Nazi. Or why did an Ethereum do the fact that you speak out against like the like you said all whites matter, or sorry, white lives matter is a white identitarian movement, right? You said that
Yes.
like the anti-white stuff is a white identitarian dog whistle. This is stuff that you've been screaming about for months, and they see the first opportunity to catch you in a consistency check about you explaining your spirituality, which I don't know if I completely understand or agree with. But yeah, I just think that it's irrelevant to the larger point, which is that, oh my God, yeah, you're the one that's been trying to call this stuff out, and other people on the right have been calling you alarmist, and those same people that were calling you alarmist are now very quick to not use nearly the amount of nuance they were using to justify what these people were doing, to analyze like what had happened with you. So why is it that even these supposedly moderate people, in my opinion, are kind of almost playing defense for these guys, and then not wanting to play defense for the person who is attacking them, which makes me think that they're attacking them for the purpose of like shutting them up because they do intentionally want to play defense for them, which scares me a lot if moderates are starting to realize that they actually need the support of these extremists in order to be politically successful, and they just don't want to say that out loud yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer for you. I think it's a great question for people in the chat who might be kind of ridiculing me. I think it's a great question for people on Twitter who like apparently can't even read because now people are saying that I believe the Holocaust is good, which I have never said. People are saying that I've celebrated the Holocaust, which I've never done. People are coming up with all sorts of like crazy things that have absolutely no basis in reality at all. So, I mean, I can't answer the question of why they're doing it. I do believe that there are conservative blue check influencers that have nefarious reasons for doing it because I have a big mouth and I don't put up with any of their shit and I'm not impressed with them at all. So I'm not going to kiss their asses and beg to be on their show or whatever. And so, like, I do think that they have reasons. I have no idea why leftists are getting involved in this. It makes absolutely no sense for me. I don't know. I would ask people in the chat. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think anybody here has said. I think that people have said that they do not think that you're anti-Semitic. They have issues with the spirituality, but probably don't understand it. One person actually did ask a question about the spirituality, Karlyn, because it's really interesting. They say if the physical plane is an avatar for the spirits to experience things, to grow, What is the purpose
Mm-hmm.
of growing? If we have to experience an atrocity to learn that it is bad, why would we need to learn that it's bad if our spirits could choose not to experience it in the first place?
Oh, I mean, this is a great question. This is a little bit more of an in-depth question, but I want to start by saying, like, listen, I've been studying my spiritual belief system for 20 years. So I like my expectation of someone being able to learn it in 20 minutes is I don't expect everyone to understand everything. I'm still learning things about it myself. So what is the so I believe the purpose of life is experience. I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings first, human beings second. Human beings is supplementary to the spiritual being, and I believe that the purpose that we all exist for is to experience good, to experience bad, to experience love, to experience heartbreak, to experience joy, to experience pain, to experience empowerment, to experience oppression. Because it is only through these, like, whether you're human or you're a spiritual being, you always learn best through experience. There is a difference between reading about something, there's a difference between watching a porn video and actually having sex. I'll give you a better example than reading a book and actually experiencing something. There's a difference between watching a porno and understanding how sex works and actually having sex yourself. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about actually having the experience of sex rather than watching a video about it or reading a book about it or a magazine about it. These are two fundamentally different things. I do not believe that spiritual beings can grow if they do not have challenges, if they do not have opposition. In spiritual circles, it's called the darkest night of the soul, where you go through the most pain, the most torment, the most heartbreak, and you work your way through it to come out on the other side with a new understanding of who you are. So I do believe our purpose here is to experience so that we can develop and evolve as spiritual beings.
Interesting. Um, Yeah, no. So Third Fig was pointing out that you have to bear in mind that the consistency checks and analogies that are inflammatory will get you the exact result that you got on Twitter. So yeah, no,
Fine.
yeah, that's the thing is that she understands and accepts that, and I don't think that she plays into it because she understands like I don't think that it's this Machiavellian like oh, I'll take all the engagement that I can get. I think that you just
No.
I don't think that you much care for people trying to cancel you for stuff that's like not looking at the larger context of what you're saying.
Yeah, I am not going to live my social media life avoiding cancellation at all costs. That just makes no sense to me. Also, I frankly do like demonstrating when people are being hypocrites. I like an actual demonstration of hypocrisy. I mean the whole point that started this in the first place was Christian conservatives can't disagree with other people. They can't. They cannot live with any sort of disagreement. So if I'm trying to present the point that I don't believe that Christian conservatives are capable of existing in disagreement with other people without flying off the handle and becoming raging idiots, the only way for me to prove that is to make them fly off the handle and become raging idiots. So it's a demonstration of the point I'm making more than anything else. But no, it's not for attention. I don't care. Listen, I've lost like 2,000 Twitter followers in like the past week. Like I do not care if people follow me on Twitter. I think the whole thing is stupid. I mean I have fun with it, but it's still dumb. But no, it's usually to illustrate a larger point.
You know, I'm fully prepared for the backlash that I'll probably get for all of this as well. Like I said, I just I don't appreciate people missing the forest for the trees because I agree with you. I think that there's a real opportunity here to take out some really dangerous people and get them away from the recruiting ground that they're using in the more
Hmm.
moderate anti-CRT wing of things. And we're just not doing it. We're not wanting to see it. We're not wanting to work together on it. I think that we can all agree that we don't like Nazis. We don't like white identitarians. We want these people as far away from the discourse as possible so that we can not only have a more productive discourse, but so that we don't have to worry about well, we all know what kind of person like falls into being recruited by these kinds of or organizations. Like, yeah, the kind of isolated, sort of like socially inept individuals that might be part of the like rational wings of the movement, getting sucked into the more extreme, more hateful, bigoted, and not what we want sides of the movement, like the
Well,
Nazi side, basically.
Yeah, but I would actually argue that I don't think it's just like isolated incels that are getting recruited into the white positivity movement.
True.
I'm like I witnessed this in Facebook over and over and over again, where we just like people with families that were just curious about they'd heard about critical race theory being anti-white on Fox News or something, which again Fox News played right into this. I've called out Fox News for doing this. Like they play into it and then they send these families into these groups because that's like where normal people go to congregate is to Facebook groups, right? I've witnessed normal people being recruited into this and being convinced that critical race theory is anti-white and therefore we need to join a white positivity movement to lift up the interests of white people. And it's like it's scary to watch them recruit. So yeah, I mean, I do think it is an imperative that people start to push back on these people. And I'll tell you this too. I know for an absolute fact that there are a lot of conservative blue checks who know about this movement because they've talked to me about it privately. They just will not say anything about it publicly. Now, the same ones who have talked to me about it privately aren't the same people that are canceling me right now. They're like the people who legitimately know that this is a problem and are just avoiding talking about it. But they absolutely do know, and they refuse to talk about it because they believe that the left will use it to paint everyone with the same brush of racism, which, to be quite frank, is absolutely what's going on with me being canceled. Right? A whole ton of leftists, because this was started by conservatives, but leftists, because of Vosh, jumped on the bandwagon for it. And now they are literally doing what the conservative right was afraid of. They are painting me as an anti-Semite because of something that was taken completely out of context. They're being proven right. And so it's like people on both sides of this have responsibilities so far as I'm concerned. But I told the truth, and that was really all my job is to do.
Yeah, and that was my so I didn't even know that I know that he did eventually talk about it, right? But I didn't know that he was the initial one to make it kind of blow up that those statements were said. But that was
I think he was on the left. He wasn't on the right.
yeah.
Like he was on the left. I believe. I mean, I don't really know. I wasn't really paying attention.
I feel like I saw some other people on the left picking it up from the ones on the right. Like 'cause what I initially saw was people being like, "Ha ha, she's being canceled by the right," and then it turned into "Ha ha, the right is correct for the reason they're canceling her." Which, out of context, like
I didn't even know that.
if I just saw the tweets by themselves, right? Like I could understand that. But I also know that you have we have talked at length about how you feel about the white identitarians and the fucking anti-Semites within your side of the CRT culture war, as it were, right? And you do not like these people due to the fact that you do find their positions to be morally abhorrent. So it would just not be, it would not make sense to me. I would not find it consistent for you to then turn out to be a secret Nazi yourself this whole time. So I looked a little bit closer, and I was just like, okay, yeah, it looks like what maybe happened here was Karlyn got caught in a consistency check, and she decided to entertain the consistency check, which is the opposite of what I do. When I'm in these situations, I'm just like, I see what's going on here, and no, we're not, we're not playing this game. But. Maybe you're correct, and I am wrong for being that way, and I should just care less about what people online think about me. Maybe that will change, or maybe this is the correct way to optically go. I don't know. But it's just still the fact that nobody was just like, hey, wasn't she the one that was talking about the anti-white is a racist dog whistle? Wasn't she the one that was trying to get that one fucking guy who actually fucking is mad about the fact that we're not teaching Holocaust denial in schools? He wanted to do that. Wasn't she mad at him at one point? I don't know. It just seems really weird that the same people that she was trying to get to disavow those people are now disavowing her so easily. Wonder if there's a reason for that. Wonder if these people want to smear the not Nazi and protect the actual Nazis because they're either scared of the actual Nazis or they understand, and this is the really concerning part for me, that they need the actual Nazis at a certain level, and they can't condone them, but they also can't disavow them.
Oh, well, I'm going to be blunt. I think both sides want the actual Nazis. Not that they need them. I think that they both want them, the left and the right.
Really?
The right, oh yeah, absolutely. Listen, like I said, I reached out to the New York Times. I reached out to the Washington Post. I reached out to the ADL. I reached out to a whole bunch of leftist places. They knew everything about this group and they refused to say anything. They refuse to say anything. I think the left needs these people because it keeps the guys that racism is a huge problem in this country alive. Like actual racism. And you know, these people
But
are
wouldn't the best way to
that.
prove that be to wouldn't the easiest way to prove that be to expose like Nazis? Because that's like, yeah, that's
Because they use them all the time. They use them all the time as examples. They use these people all the time as an example, and they try to paint the entire right as being these people, and they're not.
Okay, so you think that the reason that these more left-leaning publications didn't want to report on this is because of the fact that it would have drawn a distinction between somebody who has concerns about CRT that aren't racist versus somebody who has concerns about CRT that is racist.
Absolutely, 100%.
Understood. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think that I necessarily agree with that, but I could see that that's
Well, then why didn't anyone report on it?
That it could have been not wanting to involve with you as a source, being perceived as right wing by most people.
They didn't have to name me as a source. I gave every single one of them everything I had. They didn't even have to mention me. In fact, I frankly would have preferred it if they had reported on it. I would have preferred to be left out of it entirely. My goal was not to get press for myself. My goal was to get them to talk about the problem. I gave them everything I had. They did nothing.
Well, the ADL here seems like they talked about the problem. They just
no. These are not the people that I gave them. These are not the same groups. Yeah, they're not. It's like a tangentially related because like everyone in the white positivity sphere or the white sympathetic sphere they call it. They all know each other. They all know each other, right? Because it is like it's bigger than people think it is, but it is still a relatively small community. So no, they had everything. They didn't need to cite me. I don't really care. I frankly don't even care if people like I gave people all the resources they needed in terms of giving them video clips and evidence and all of that stuff. I don't care if people cite me. Like they can just talk about it and make sure people know what's going on. That would be perfectly nice for me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, if they still haven't talked about the fact that, for example, anti-white is a racist dog whistle, that would be concerning to me. I hope they at least.
Oh, a lot of them are still using it.
A lot of the leftist publications are using the term anti-white as.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in what context? And like saying that this is what other people. Oh. My Discord just crashed. The 1 second. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna figure. Hold on.
Hello?
I'm back. And my Discord crashed there for a second. I apologize. Let's get this up. Okay, bingo. All right. Let me find this. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna pop out this window, and there should auto capture from there. Sorry, leftist video feed. You know, just typical bottom of the barrel engineering. Anyway. Yeah, so I think third fig is what Karlyn is saying, that the article that the ADL wrote didn't call out the individuals that she was trying to get exposed.
Now, I do see Chris Rufo called out in here, which to me tells me that this was more of a hit piece on the anti-CRT movement. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but I've scanned it enough to say that this is not the same group that I was talking about, and this is not the same group that I handed the ADL on a silver platter and that they completely rejected and told me they weren't interested. Not the same group.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of Rufo or the organization of which he is a fellow personally. But yeah, let me make sure. Okay, so they're not. Okay, so yeah, they're actually talking about the fact that Pinovich, you know who that is?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so let me find him up in here. But I believe that he was one of the white identitarians that they are calling out in this. But when they're talking about Chris Rufo, they're actually saying that conservatives will only speak up about critical race theory and anti-whiteness if they are Jewish or backed by Jews, referencing a conservative journalist, Christopher Rufo, who's credited by the New
Oh, I
Yorker
see.
with inventing the current CRT debate. Pinovich claimed on Telegram that Rufo works for the Jewish neocon Manhattan Institute, whose chairman is the Jewish venture capitalist Paul Singer. So they brought up Christopher
I see.
Rufo as a means to be like, the white identitarians aren't even satisfied with the people who are moderates within the CRT movement
Oh,
because they think that they're backed by
no.
Jews, like you yourself. They've called you a Jew several
Yeah.
times.
Oh, yeah. The white identitarians hate Chris Rufo. In fact, in the article that I put together, there's a whole clip of them ragging incessantly on Chris Rufo. They also have gone after James Lindsay. They've gone after me. They call all of us Jewish. Um,
They call
yeah.
James
No, they
Lindsay Jewish. Oh God.
yeah, they call everyone so they lump everyone that they believe is anti-white into one category, and that category is Jew. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, James Lindsay has been very clear about the fact that when he says cultural Marxist, that he doesn't mean Jewish, because he has people that constantly try to get him to take the final step, as they say, and just put the final piece together and figure out that communist means Jewish. But
Oh yeah, no, but these people aren't interested in truth. That's not remotely what they're interested in. This is a deranged ideology. I mean, and you know, if you ever have some free time and you want to watch some white identitarian content, watch No White Guilt. Watch his channel
no,
and
I
watch
don't.
what he does because this guy again, this guy is the leader of this entire thing. I'm pretty sure he's a former salesperson because he is one of the smoothest talkers I have ever seen. He knows how to sell these concepts and he knows how to talk about it in a way that he's on YouTube. How all of this started was he did a stream in which he was responding to something that I said when I made a video that says critical race theory is not anti-white, and they brigaded my YouTube channel, but he is currently on YouTube. He knows exactly how to walk the fine line so that he doesn't get banned, he doesn't get canceled. He knows exactly what to say, what not to say, to bring people in who would be like, I'm not a white supremacist, but I believe that white people should stick to their own, or I believe that white people should protect other white people. He knows exactly what to do, and it is frightening to watch him.
Hmm.
It's going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem. It floors me to no end that, listen, like, I've reached the point where I'm pretty inoculated to being canceled by them. Like I said, this is like the sixth time they've tried to cancel me this year alone. They keep coming back and doing this stuff because they're so pissed that I will not go away and I will not shut up. And it's like, nothing they say or do is going to hurt me. I mean, I don't really care. But like, it really does annoy me to no end that all of this energy could be used to fight actual problems. And they just won't do it because they have no interest in defeating the actual problems. They're completely addicted to outrage, and it's just all about maintaining their status and maintaining their power, and that's it.
Yeah, and I have severe disagreements with James Lindsay after like listening to some of his recent podcasts, obviously, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, he seems to he believes that all the things about the Frankfurt School are true and bad, except he doesn't think the bad part is that they were Jewish. He thinks the bad part is that they were communist. Do you think that's true today? And I disagree. I don't think there's a lot of communists working behind the scenes to orchestrate things, but yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think that I'd be able to label him as anti-Semitic. What I would say though is that kids hear the term cultural Marxism thrown around, they hear the conspiracy thrown around, they go home and Google it, they find the original paper written in 1992 about like the wokeness and the whatnot being perpetrated by Jewish people, and then they cite it when they go and shoot up a synagogue, like was in San Diego, maybe. So maybe it kind of exposes them to something that eventually leads them down that pipeline, and that's harmful. But I don't think that's the same as labeling the person as anti-Semitic. Irresponsible with their rhetoric, it would be the probably the highest charge that you could label at them at that point.
Oh, well, I mean, I think that's like the highest charge you can actually label at me too, to be quite frank. But no, I mean, I like, yeah, I mean, and I wouldn't even say irresponsible. I would say that I I do not care to play this internet game. I just do not care to play it. I do not care to play this debate bro game. Like, I'm 40 years old, man. Like, I don't have, like, I've got other stuff to do. But I will say this, like, I'm really glad that this conversation is not as, like, I agree with James Lindsay about the cultural Marxism stuff, but I think, you know, and we can agree to disagree. And, you know, you and I have never had a problem agreeing to disagree and still kind of being cool, which I really appreciate about you. But I will say, it's like, I think there should be moments where we should be able to put aside our disagreements and actually focus on legitimate problems. And it worries me that we just seem to be in a place where this is impossible, where the bad people have been identified. Every single person knows that the bad people exist. Every single, maybe not every single person, but people in this space, they know the bad people exist. They know it. It's not in dispute. It's not in dispute of what these people are saying. It's not in dispute of what these people are doing. And no one will do anything about it. Like, I'm a psychologist that happened to build a YouTube channel very quickly. Like, that's it. I'm not a journalist. I'm not an activist. I'm not any of these things. I'm just a psychologist that happened to stumble into a YouTube platform, right? I'm doing what I can do to expose stuff when I come across it. I'm doing what I can do to focus on fixing problems. And I just wish that more people would actually keep their eye on the ball of the things that matter.
Yeah, and to me that's exposing the actual white identitarians and like the people who like you don't have to speculate, right? You can afford them every bit of charitability in the book and they'll still tell on themselves, right?
Oh
They'll
yeah.
they'll be
Oh
like
yeah.
you'll be like, so what you mean by that is that you just have concerns about XYZ and the communism. And they're like, no, I just hate Jewish people, right? Like they'll fucking say it. And the fact that these people feel comfortable saying these things in civilized society now, it should be worrying for, yeah, all of us. Because that's not a good sign of where we're at. That this sort of thing is something that you can say out loud and there be zero repercussions for. As a matter of fact, there seems to be repercussions targeted at the people who are willing to treat this as their chief concern and kind of reach across the aisle almost. Like with myself, people get mad at me for speaking to people like you who see this as an issue. And in your case, they're trying to label you with the same charge that you're levying against them. And when you're levying it against them, there's all this nuance. And it's like, well, maybe they don't mean it that way, Karlyn. Maybe they just mean that they have concerns about the communism, right? But the second that you like have this one little thing that they can take out of quote, like context, and a couple of tweets and show, then they're just like, oh, yep, nope, that's all the evidence I need. She's anti-Semitic and she is a Nazi, and we're not going to deal with her anymore. And then the real reason that they don't want to deal with you anymore is because of the fact that you're trying to get rid of the actual fucking Nazis, and that's a problem for them.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, that's exactly correct. And the thing of it, the excuse they give is, well, Karlyn, you're abrasive. Or Karlyn, we don't like you, and so we don't feel the need to call out this is an honest to God excuse that I've been given by conservative blue checks today. Karlyn, I don't like you, and so therefore I'm not responsible for calling out anti-Semitism that you have been the only person that has been screaming about for months, because I don't like you. I'm sorry. And I was actually told that by a Jew, by a guy that has Jew in his profile. And it's like, I'm sorry. Like, I wasn't under the impression that conservatives cared so much about their feelings that they would let the fact that someone who is not BFFs with you get in the way of calling out actual anti-Semitism when you are a Jew. So it's all excuses. I mean, this to me has been, you know, not just this, but this entire year in regards to like the conservative right, because again, I've been dealing with this since June. So maybe not all the year, half of the year, half of the year has been dedicated to the conservatives being idiots when it comes to calling out actual racists and actual anti-Semites for me. And, I look at it and I just find it to be so incredibly disappointing because one of the things that when I kind of woke up and left the Democrats and started, got involved with the walkaway movement, which I have no regrets for. I love the walkaway movement. I think they're great. But where I do regret a little bit is leading people to the impression that conservatives are the only alternative to the Democrats, because I feel like I was very used by the conservative movement in this regard. And then as soon as they found a way to discard me because I didn't become a card-carrying GOP member, red suit wearing conservative, they did it. And all throughout 2020, all I was hearing was, Karlyn, we make decisions rationally, whereas the left makes decisions emotionally. If you are literally telling me that the reason that you are not calling out actual white identitarians and actual anti-Semites is because you don't like me, and you're making decisions based on your feelings, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you are. And I see people mentioning PragerU in the chat because obviously I've done a PragerU video. I have absolutely no regrets about doing a PragerU video. These people that I'm talking about hate Prager. I have had a wonderful experience with PragerU. PragerU gave me a platform in which to tell my story. It was authentic. They wrote the script, but I approved every bit of it. I made changes to the script, so it was my story, and they were telling it. So I have no issue with PragerU at all. They get attacked by these people just as much as anyone else. So does
Really?
Dave Rubin, by the way.
No,
yeah.
Dave Rubin I know for a fact does.
Yeah.
Because he's also gay, and they're not very appreciative of that either, I'm pretty sure.
And Jewish.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's the whole other side of it. And obviously I have my disagreements with Dave Rubin, right? I have deep disagreements with Dave Rubin, but if it was like Dave Rubin was the only person that I can work with to get one of these motherfuckers thrown out of their recruiting grounds, right? And actually exposed for the terrible fucking neo-Nazis that they are, I'm going to work with Dave Rubin. Like, there's a point at which you have to build a popular front with who is willing to build the popular front. And there's
Dave Rubin is like the nicest guy in the world, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like he's like, he is one of the good eggs in this entire thing. He really is. Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, and I actually think he would welcome disagreement. He's a good person.
I don't think that I've ever seen anything from him that I feel was malicious. I would say maybe a little bit cry-bully sometimes would be like my worst criticism. But yeah, I don't think that he comes from a place of like trying to like fucking be bad faith or Machiavellian. No. I think that he believes everything that he probably says.
He does.
Yeah. But yeah, even then, even if they did think that he was being Machiavellian, as long as they knew that he wasn't being Machiavellian in the service of white identitarians, right?
Yeah.
If that's who I got to work with. That's who I got to work with at the end of the day, because these people can't be allowed. They shouldn't feel comfortable saying the things that they say on public platforms the way that they do, and feeling like there's not going to be any pushback. And the fact that there isn't pushback, and there's pushback for stuff like this instead, and it only seems to be directed at people who are trying to call out the actual problem, is very concerning to me. And how quickly the left will just, or not even just the left, but the right as well, will jump on the person who gets taken out of context. I appreciate that subscription, by the way, Priestley. It just, I don't know. I think that it's not unique to situations like these. I think that it's just the way that we interact with social media in general as a culture. And I was actually going to, planning on talking about this at some point today before all this came up. When I was talking about like online radicalization, right? It's like not only now do we have these extremist groups that are trying to recruit, but there's these websites that write these stories and just pick up on this stuff with very little research in such a way that they are financially motivated to be as inflammatory as possible, right? Because the algorithm doesn't solve for truth. The algorithm doesn't solve for correctness. The algorithm solves for engagement, because the algorithm is concerned with making money. And what is materially incentivized, right? I'm going to sound a little bit Marxist here, sorry. What is materially incentivized by these algorithms is to make people as upset as possible. And that
Yep.
is what serves the extremist groups as well, is making people afraid and upset of the other side.
Yep, I completely agree that almost everyone, though not all, but almost every single creator that I see are they're more interested in playing into the algorithm and getting likes and clicks and views than they are in actually telling the truth. That's it. You want some Tim Pool dirt? I've got Tim Pool dirt on this topic. So Tim Pool had a guest on, and I'm not going to say who it was, but a guest on to talk about like some of the CRT stuff, and specifically labeled this particular stream that it was about anti-white, using that specific terminology. And the guest said, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" And Tim assured her that he was doing it because that was what would get the most clicks and the most views. They're absolutely playing into this. They know exactly what they need to do to get clicks and views from outraged junkies on the internet, and they're playing into this ideology because of it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm like, I won't go near Tim Pool. Not with a 10-foot pole. Absolutely not. One of the many reasons. He doesn't like me either, so this is a mutual kind of like hatred thing. But that was something, when I heard about that, I found it to be completely detestable. And that was around the time too when I got attacked by the white identitarians, and I was like, we all need to start behaving more responsibly. So as much as I might troll people on Twitter, I do actually try to behave responsibly in terms of how I present this information. Trolling people on Twitter is just like good sporting fun and exposing hypocrisy and bullshit and all that. But when I'm actually writing about this and speaking about it, I do try to present a very responsible point of view because I don't think there are many people out there doing it.
Yeah, and as Third Fig just pointed out in chat, who always makes very good points, just yeah, it is completely interpersonal, right? And it's not, yeah. If somebody doesn't play into the algorithm, they're replaced at the top of the algorithm by someone who is then willing to. It's very Machiavellian. It's very just literally straight out of the Prince, right? Just if you don't do it, somebody else will. So you might as well. And I do think that that's what these people tell themselves, right? I know that's what Tim Pool has to tell himself.
Oh yeah.
Because like, yeah, the guy who's selling like prepper buckets as his merch, he's into making people afraid and upset and being inflammatory. Shocker. But just shocker there.
Oh yeah, that prepper company reached out to me at one point too, and I was like, no, I'm gonna sell CBD oils instead. I'm cool.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I've always seen you stay away from, which I appreciate, is like the Civil War bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Because that stuff is dangerous. That is so dangerous. That was they had a whole panel on it with John Doyle, who I'm sure that
Oh
yeah,
God, really?
yeah, no, this Better Discourse conference that I actually went to, yeah, the other week, but they had this whole panel on like it wasn't even a debate panel. It was for conservatives, or I wouldn't call them conservatives. Like some of these people are just unabashedly fascist, frankly. Just sitting up there talking about like, well, look, we don't want to have an actual like physical war, but the culture war has just gotten to such a point where we can't express ourselves anymore, and we don't want to do it. We really don't. But I think that it's kind of gotten, I don't know, just like getting as close to the line as they could of calling for violence without actually calling for violence, with no
Conservatives.
pushback.
Conservatives are so full of shit when they say Civil War. Conservatives spent all of 2020 screaming about 1776, 1776, and like I was like, you guys are not starting anything. And this is actually an example I used with them in the abortion debate because, like after I figured out like that conservatives actually believe that like I didn't take this abortion Supreme Court thing seriously at all. And then all I was hearing about was that like they were celebrating that Roe versus Wade is going to get repealed. And I was like, hang on a second, you idiots. Do you understand what you are about to start? Do you understand how deep seated this issue is on the left? And I tried to make the example of them, and this is how the whole thing started. I tried to make the example of like, okay, why don't we just repeal the Second Amendment and send gun rights back to the states? That's the level at which you're talking about. And conservatives were not getting the analogy at all because they were like, if Roe versus Wade gets repealed, then that it doesn't make abortion illegal, just send it back to the states. And so I said, okay, let's repeal the Second Amendment and send gun rights back to the states. And they were like, oh, you're gonna start civil war if you do that, Karlyn. And I was like, please, you people are not leaving your living rooms. I was in these groups all through 2020. They wouldn't even leave their house wearing a red MAGA hat. This is not a group that's going to start civil war. They bluster and they talk and all these things, but they aren't going to do anything. Can I answer the question in the chat about if I regret? So there's a question that says, does Karlyn regret going on Doyle, Crazy Lady, and Blair debate? No, I don't regret that at all. I love Elijah Schaffer. I think Elijah Schaffer is amazing. I actually like John Doyle. I guess I don't know enough about him. Like I don't, my perception of him is that he's like a conservative Christian, but like not uber bad. But like maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't really watch him that much. Lauren Witzke is insane. Lauren Witzke should be denounced. Lauren Witzke has been on No White Guilt's show, on Jason Kona's show twice. Like she's absolutely insane. Do I regret being in that debate? No, I love Elijah. I think I made some really good points in that debate. And I have no regrets about that.
Didn't Elijah recently have Nick Fuentes on, I think, or like?
Oh, I think he did, and I don't know what I think about that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not a fan of that, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole Blaze thing is complicated for me, obviously.
Why?
I'm not Blaze. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just some of the people that they platform. I don't feel like pushed back against some of the like audience that they gain from having people like Nick Fuentes on, right? I feel like if you are playing into having those people on and you're getting any kind of viewership share of their audience, that puts you in a position where you don't want to talk badly about them as enough, and you can't
Mm-hmm.
disavow the things that I would think that I would want to be in a position to always disavow, right? Like I would never want to be in a position where if I did need to say something negative about Vosh, for example, I would have to lose like 50% of my audience to do so, right? And I feel
Yeah.
like that there are a lot of hosts on Blaze that are in the same situation, but just reverse it as far as like which side of the political spectrum they're on. But again, if they don't do it, somebody else will do it. Because I don't do it, that means that I'm not as far up in the algorithm, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think my perception of the Blaze is of all of like the I'll call them like corporate media outlets because I do think they're corporate media. I do. They make a lot. They have a lot of money. I think that they actually do probably the best job of any of them. Like I think the Daily Wire, for the most part, not all, but most of them are just blatant grifters. I have very little respect for people at the Daily Wire. Some of them are okay. Sometimes I think some of them sometimes are okay, but Matt Walsh can go fuck himself.
Wait, who
Um,
said Doyle was conservative demonstrating? I don't think that Doyle is a
huh?
conservative. No, I'm just talking to somebody in the chat.
No.
I don't
Oh,
think that
sorry.
Doyle is a conservative. I think that John Doyle is a fascist through and through. Um,
Yeah. I don't have an
I,
opinion about that.
I,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's definitely like a groiper. Like he's definitely like riding that line, if nothing else. But I actually think the Blaze does a pretty decent job. But I will agree with you that I do, I never want to be beholden to my audience. I have listen, since I started talking about this, I have lost probably 5,000 subs on YouTube over the anti-white stuff and over the white identitarian stuff specifically. So not half my audience or anything, but I have lost a lot of people. And I absolutely do have people that are in the anti-CRT space that will message me privately and they'll say, well, Karlyn, I really like your stuff, but I can't share it because you call out this anti-white stuff and I can't get on board with that. So I totally understand. And I don't believe that creators should ever be beholden to their audience. I think that at the end of the day, that even though I don't think hell exists, that would be my very definition of hell right there.
yeah, and just to clarify, because I know that people are coming and going in the chat, when she's talking about calling out the anti-white stuff, she's not calling out people for being anti-white. She's calling out people who say the word anti-white, and she's saying that that is a white identitarian dog whistle, right? And
Yes.
that is costing her audience share with white identitarians. And you have the correct response that I wish that more people like some that work at Blaze Media had, which is, I am happy to see these people leave my audience. If you are a white identitarian, I want nothing to do with you. I do not need your money. I do not need your support. And I feel like that's part of the reason that you are getting backlash from the right initially. And yes, the left jumped on board, right? But from the right, that they don't give to people who actually espouse these things right now is because you are rocking the boat. You are saying, I don't want you to be getting these people as part of your audience share. I am going to make you take a side. And they're saying, no, I don't want to. I want to straddle the fence. I want to be able to benefit from both of these groups at once. And the fact that you are going to make me expel them from my audience would be bad for me and cost me money. Yeah, I'd rather just make you go away by getting you labeled as an anti-Semite instead.
Yep. That's exactly, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think I make a lot of people very uncomfortable because I illustrate very clearly what the logical end result of their actions is. And I think a lot of people are making a very cozy living and they don't want to rock the boat. Like, I never got into, again, like I tripped and fell into this. I never aspired to be a YouTuber. I never aspired to be a streamer. This was not something that was in my life plan at all. And I promised myself when I did it. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I'm getting a little spinny wheel on my end.
Oh no.
So I promised myself when I made the decision to do it that I was always going to be authentic to myself, and that was going to be first and foremost what I would do. And I there are things that I don't talk about all the time. Like, I will not make a video on abortion because I will have my feed filled with comments calling me a baby killer and all this stuff. So I won't do that because it's just not my number one issue anyway. I'll talk about it on Twitter, but I won't make a video about it. But like when it comes to the white identitarian stuff, I think it's so important. And I think it's so big, and I think it's going to be such a big problem that I frankly think it's irresponsible to not talk about it.
Yeah, and I can disagree with you about CRT. I can disagree with you about the prescription of like school choice as an answer to CRT, and I can still, in the same breath, say like, hey, if we want to get white identitarians out of the other side of this argument, right? Because they're using that side of the argument as a recruiting ground. I think that we should work together on that. I think that we should all call these people out. I think that we should say that these people are different than the moderates. And that, yeah, but by not doing so, well, yeah, it's just, it gives them a place to make people more extreme, and I've seen the consequences of the more extreme firsthand. A couple months ago, there was a banner drop done by a group called the Goyim Defense League, about 15 miles from my house. I live in Texas, right? Highest concentration of hate groups in the nation, that already has quite a few hate groups, unfortunately. And they just dropped a banner drop off the side that said, vax the Jews, right? And they had a police escort for the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And they streamed it. They streamed it on Streamlabs, and they got $700 in donations. And they did it outside of a predominantly Jewish neighborhood, and it sends a very clear message of, if they will let us get away with this, imagine what they will let us get away with next. So the Nazis are here, people. They're here, and they're like more than willing to show that the government is not going to do much in the way of stopping them as things are right now. So like, we need to stop them from being able to recruit, and if that means like building a popular front with just conservatives, or in your case, I don't even think you're a conservative, you're just kind of an independent, right?
Libertarian.
Yeah, or libertarians that we disagree with, right? Mm-hmm. If they are anti-fascist in any way, shape, or form, then they're your friend as far as like taking out fascists are concerned. And you should listen to them and try and help them when they're doing so.
But the thing of it is like, so the case that you just mentioned, that's like an actual case of anti-Semitism, right? That's real anti-Semitism. What I'm getting canceled for right now on Twitter is not real. And I don't even think the worst case interpretation of what I said, like, I don't think there's any reasonable person can look at what I said and say she's a hardened anti-Semite, especially when you look at it in the broader context. It just makes no sense. I said even in the tweet, I said they made a decision before they were born. It's not that I said they made a decision to be in the Holocaust. I said they made a decision before they were born. Yeah. And so this is like, and my point of it is like, I think that there are so many instances of real anti-Semitism out there that when you're focusing all of this energy calling out nonsense, then you diminish the real anti-Semitism and you just make it harder for any of us to make progress. And so, no, I think that I've seen banner drops like that. I've seen videos of them in New Hampshire as well. Again, these groups are bigger than people think. Like the numbers that are out there with people saying there are only a couple thousand like real white supremacists, like KKK members, neo-Nazis in the country. Those are not correct. Those
No,
are not.
no.
I think it's at least 10 times, if not more. I think if I say it's 10 times bigger than anyone thinks it is, I think that's a low estimate.
Here's a little estimate because I know the numbers and it's I don't have to leave my city to find 7 of these groups, right, that are operational, and
Yeah.
consistently doing things like this. And it's not just banner drops and passing out leaflets all the time. Like there is violent crime that occurs, and the group that is targeted with this violent crime disproportionately to any other group is Jewish people, right? So this
Hmm.
is something that I take very seriously. And if you are willing to fucking call these people out, get them fucking deplatformed, take away their recruiting power, be like, we are not going to accept this in civilized society, like that should, yeah, people should be willing to work with you on that at the very least. And then we can fight about the rest of it once we're done with the fucking Nazis.
Yeah. I completely agree. There are things that I am willing to put aside for the greater good. We don't have to fight all battles at once. Like we can disagree about whether or not the public schools should be defunded today because I know that that's a long-term fight anyway. And listen, we will duke it out over the schools and one of us will win and one of us will lose and it'll be what it is. But I don't mind right now teaming up on something that we both agree on. And frankly, I think we can actually do both. I think we can actually call out really, really, really bad people and say these people are never acceptable ever. And then on the other side, have a debate about the role of public schools and government funded schools in our society and whether or not they're operating in the way that they should be and what should change about it in order to, frankly, better all of society. But these are two different discussions. And I think it's just ridiculous to me that this again, I don't mind being canceled about stuff like this necessarily. Like it doesn't bother me. I'm not like sad or upset or crying in a corner or something. And I'm not like, oh, I'll never be able to work again because that's not true. But it's just annoying in that it's stupid. It is stupid. It is petty. It is unnecessary. It has nothing to do with the problems that are at play. I mean, you've said it several times. There is absolutely no reason that conservative influencers turned on me that quickly, other than they just don't like that I call them on their bullshit. That's the
Yeah.
only reason that there is.
And they want to be able to keep on paying lip service to both groups, and you don't want to allow them to do that. So, yeah,
Nope.
they want you gone. Because they're very, you've seen them, how much nuance and charity they're willing to give to the actual Nazis, right? Just like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
that Richard Spencer fellow, he's so well dressed and he speaks so well. And, he just seems so reasonable. And I just think that he's got some concerns about the culture of the U.S. being replaced with a foreign culture. And then, like, the rant from Charlottesville comes out where he's talking about history is full of, like, these. I'm not even going to quote the rant, it was disgusting. But it took that for people to finally, like, be like, okay, well, he's indefensible now, right? And if that's
Hmm.
how far they were willing to go for this guy, yeah, it just keeps on happening. And I think that the other thing is that like the social media phenomenon that I was talking about, where the algorithm is not designed to solve for what is effective and what is conducive to like productive discourse, but is rather it solves for conflict. It's not designed to solve for conflict. It's designed to solve for watch time and engagement. But what causes engagement and watch time is conflict between these two groups. So I think that it actually inadvertently serves to keep us fighting over the things that we do disagree about, right? But that
Hmm.
prevents us from being able to look at the things that we do agree about, like Nazis bad, anti-Semitism bad, racism bad. We can't come together on that and actually expel these people from our spaces anymore, which is
Well, and
concerning.
Yeah, and I'm going to go one step further too. Like when I did my write up on the white well-being, white positivity movement, I one of the things that I absolutely had in mind when I was writing it was I wanted to give conservatives cover to say these people are bad and they don't represent us. So if anyone looks at the write up that I did, and again it's on my Substack, it's just Karlyn Karlyn.substack.com. It's pinned right at the top. Like if you read the write up, you will see I gave conservatives multiple times in this article where I pointed out this group is not a conservative group. This group is not an alt-right group. This group sees themselves as outside of the left-right paradigm. Here are 3 different videos in which this group is deliberately separating themselves from conservatives because they do not like conservatives. They do not like conservatives at all. They don't see themselves as conservatives. They don't see themselves as being on the right. And so I gave not only because it's the truth, like this group does not see themselves as being on the right, but I also like went out of my way to give conservatives every single bit of cover that I could possibly give them to say, listen, this group is even saying they don't represent conservatives. They're outside of us. They're not part of our team. They're not part of our club. And even though I gave them all this cover, they still refuse to talk about it.
Yeah, and that's because they don't want the cover. They want to have their cake and eat
They
it
want to
too.
ignore it. Yep, they want to ignore it. They want the audience. Yeah, the audience is vicious when you turn against them and you start talking about this stuff. They are
Look what happened to
they
Kraut.
what happened?
With Kraut, are you familiar with him at all?
Not I
So
don't watch anything
yeah.
really. So
So Kraut was back during Gamergate hanging out with like Sargon of Akkad and that crew, right? And
hmm
then when it became very clear to Kraut that these were not traditional conservatives who just cared about conservative values, that these were in fact white identitarians, frankly, Kraut spoke out against it, and his audience bullied him relentlessly, like drove him from the internet from a period, to the point where he still has deep problems with anyone who is even like okay with these people afterwards. Shuan Head is somebody that he still like resents quite a lot, just due to the fact that at the time she seemed to be okay with still being friends with Sargon after he realized that this was a bad group in his opinion. And I like Shuan Head, right? I'm not going to speak on that one way or the other, but just to give you an idea of like how deeply this has affected him to this day. Yeah, it's not something that is fun to do, to speak out against the white nationalist tendencies in your own audience as a conservative. It will get you death threats. It will get you called like every racial slur in the book, right?
oh yeah, I've gotten death threats today. I've gotten death threats today over this stuff. They emailed them into my business. And so, I mean, no, I agree with that. And you know, one thing to round it back to my spiritual beliefs that everyone thinks I'm crazy for, the fact of the matter is the only reason that I have been able to withstand getting canceled by the right for like 6 times this year is because of my spiritual beliefs, because I believe that when bad things happen to us, when negative things happen to us, that's an opportunity to turn inward and to look inside ourselves and to figure out how we can exist in a productive way in this situation. Because I believe, again, like like, you know, on a human level, it sucks to get canceled. It's annoying. You have people sending you death threats. You have, you know, people denouncing you, organizations that will never work with you again. Like, you know, it's not as bad as people think, but like it's annoying. But the thing of it is if you can find it within yourself to try to use the situation to your advantage, then you're going to be able to get through it and you're going to be able to exist in a better space because of it, and you're going to be able to be stronger because of it. You know, this isn't the most horrific canceling that I've endured. The most horrific canceling I endured was in June with the white identitarians, with Cassandra Fairbanks, with Ian Miles Chung, with all of those people combined coming at me at one time. And this lasted for several weeks. And because of that canceling, it sucked. I was depressed. I was in a really bad place. Luckily, I got to go to PorkFest and do a whole bunch of drugs in the woods with the libertarians, and that kind of helped me through it, you know, temporarily while I was able to get my shit together. But it was really bad. But the thing of it is that has inoculated me to what's going on right now. Like, I don't care if people set me up in a consistency trap on Twitter because I've already gone through the worst possible canceling that I think I could possibly go through, and I survived, and I came out alive, and I came out better for it. So that's from my spiritual beliefs. And so people can think it's crazy that I believe we choose our plan before we're born, and we choose when we die before we're born. But there's also strength and empowerment to that, because I know I'm loved. I know I'm accepted. I know I will always have people around me that love and support me. And just because idiots on the internet are thinking one thing, that doesn't change any of that.
Yeah. So, and especially if the spiritual belief like gets you through a hard time. Like I'm more than I would understand why, when consistency checked on something like that, you don't want to back down and take the optically advantageous way out. Like, you do want to defend it because it's something that's like important to you personally, right? Um,
Yes. I also believe, though, I mean, listen, like, I've got a book coming out next year that's all about, standing up for yourself and fighting back against this stuff in your life. And I'm sure we'll have many debates about that. But the thing of it is one of the things I talk about in the book is that when you're canceled, you don't back down. You don't bend the knee. You don't apologize to the people canceling you. You stand your ground. And so I do, in addition to my spirituality being deeply personal to me, I also do feel I have an obligation to demonstrate what it looks like to not back down when you're being canceled by a mob.
no, well, I will do my best to emulate that with the inevitable cancel mob that comes after me after we're done here this evening. Um, oh God.
Good luck.
Yeah, no,
It'll be fine.
I've gotten good at just not looking at the Twitter notifications for a couple of days if it comes to that.
Can I recommend weed?
You can. So interestingly enough, they had the Delta 8 THC here that was fine for a little bit. Like, you go to a gas station, get the Delta 8 stuff. It's technically hemp, but it has like Delta 8 THC, not CBD.
Yeah.
But then, despite the fact that 5 out of 9 of the companies that were producing it locally were actually veteran owned and operated, so completely employing veterans, owned by veterans, the GOP state senate made it illegal. And I had taken a 2 week tolerance break, having no idea that this was happening. Went into the gas station where I usually bought it, and they're like, yeah, no, they made us get rid of all of it. And I was just like, what? Because I know that they had made a push to get rid of it before and didn't go through. But then they made a push to get rid of it again, and despite the fact that the veterans companies once again lobbied against them and said, we're going to crucify you in your midterms for taking away jobs from veterans if you do this. Wow. They didn't care. It's Texas. They know they're going to win. They gerrymandered it. They gerrymandered the state to hell and back.
Texas sucks. New Hampshire rules.
True. I mean, for this, like, I was in Los Angeles, right? So that was very easy.
Yeah. Just get delivery to your hotel.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's so legal there that they have it set up like Uber Eats. Like, you can see on the map where the car is. They're so shameless.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I got $20 in free weed in Los Angeles in my account today. I can't use it because I'm not there.
I have $200 in saved up credits since I left from them sending me like money trying to get me to start spending it again. And I'm just like, yeah, well, when I go back to visit, it's just going to be very, very free weed for the entire trip.
Yep.
But yeah, no, that would be that is probably the easiest way to get through the anxiety of the spectacle of it all. But honestly, just to understand that it is spectacle, right? And that it is just the algorithm doing its thing, and that people are going to react to it the way they react to it, and nobody's really interested in having a nuanced conversation. No. I don't ever want that to be the reason that I'm not having one, especially when it's something as important as making sure that the actual fucking Nazis get called out, and not the people that are trying to call out those Nazis getting called out as Nazis in order to silence them and make them ineffective, so that the people that want to be buddy-buddy with them don't get called out for doing so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's actually, a really good observation that people need to understand is that, again, I'm going to talk about Twitter specifically because that's where most of this has occurred. I don't take Twitter seriously as a platform at all in any way. I think that Twitter at its best is performance art, and how I approach it is, I'm a big fan of Andy Kaufman. Right. I don't know if you've ever watched Andy Kaufman. I don't know if you're too young for that, but like I'm a big fan of Andy Kaufman. Andy Kaufman was like the ultimate troll. And I kind of view Twitter as the same way. Like, if I am pissing people off on both sides of the aisle, then it's a good day. Like, I'm not a normal, like, I'm not the Karlyn that you're talking to right now is not the Karlyn that you're going to talk to on Twitter. Like 90% of the time, maybe in the DMs. In the DMs, I'm kind of normal, but like on Twitter, that's a personality. That's a persona. It's art. And I view it as a space where I can trigger people on both sides, where I can have fun doing that. Because for me, that balances out things where I need to be more serious and focused in my real life. It's fun, it's play. And I wish that like I wish people would realize like it is it is crazy how seriously people take Twitter. It is insane. This is a social media platform that gives you what 280 characters or something to make a point. This is not a place for nuanced adult discussion. It is a place to play and to, go at people and to be in war. And I wish that people would stop taking Twitter so seriously, but just because other people take Twitter seriously doesn't mean I'm obligated to. And I agree with you on the nuanced conversations. I would welcome having much more nuanced conversations. I think we've had a very nuanced conversation, and I frankly think when it comes to sites like YouTube or Twitch, it's really the only responsible way to use the platform.
Yeah, well, I mean, to a certain extent, yes, but also there is a fair bit of blood sport that happens on those platforms as well. That I think that
No.
sometimes people take a bit too seriously. To be very frank, I think that a lot of this blood sport, even though it's around the serious issue of politics, sometimes you have to see it for what it is. Like it's blood sport. It's debate for the sake of debate. A lot of the times, the topics that are being debated don't really have much of an effect on what's happening politically in the real world at the time.
Hmm.
And you can't get so wrapped up in it personally that you're like, oh, I can't believe that they would platform this side of an opinion to 40 whole people on a Twitch channel. This
Oh
is gonna be
no.
so. It's just like, okay, yeah, no, it's not that deep, buddy. It's just like, some people on the internet that wanted to get on and yell, and they got on and yelled, and they would have done it on Twitter otherwise, right? And that happens
Yeah.
on YouTube and Twitch, for sure. But if you're going to have a nuanced conversation, yeah, you need to take away the character limit. Ideally, you need to be able to look at other people, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Ideally on camera, and I think that helps to I don't know. I don't think you can engage with somebody the same way that you do on like Twitter or Facebook, from behind a keyboard, the same way that you would in a conversation where you have to like look at the way the person's reacting, and yeah, actually see that you're talking to a human being.
Hmm. No, I 100% agree with that. It is a completely different thing when you add video and voice in, and it changes the note of the conversation. And I think I mean, frankly, like I would challenge anyone who has been trolling me on Twitter, come and actually have a conversation with me, and have a good faith conversation, not a Hunter Avalone type of conversation, which I used to like Hunter. Hunter and I used to get along, and now he's acting in bad faith. Whatever. But I think the point is, I think, where I would like to go with this is also encouraging people that if you focus on yourself and what you're trying to bring rather than focusing on what other people are doing that you don't like, your life is going to be a whole lot happier. Now, I'm not talking about, we've obviously had like an extensive conversation about calling out the white identitarians and the really bad people, and that's fine. But when it comes to just like average people who frankly aren't doing anything that's really deeply controversial, stop looking for reasons to call each other out. Just like it doesn't matter. Focus on what you want to bring and the conversations that you want to have and the content that you want to create. Most of the time, there is no reason to bring other people into it. There's just really not.
Yeah, Colas, my background is depressing and suburban. I know, okay? Look, buddy, I've got a green screen back there. I'm gonna reorganize everything. I've got a nice new table coming. Like, I'm gonna have an actual mount for this mic. Like, it's gonna be great. I've got 3-point lighting coming. Believe it or not. Like, I would have bought a ring light by now if we didn't have the 3-point lighting on the way. Like, we're gonna up the production value. Like, we're starting to take this seriously. because of the fact that it's looking like it's getting to the point where I can take it seriously. So that's very exciting, right? But thank you. I know it's very bad as it is right now. I thought they were going to say something else, so that was pretty funny. Well done. But yeah, no, it's yeah, the discourse I don't think has been made better by the pandemic and the internet and the fact that it's all online now. I don't think the fact that it was trending towards being all online made the internet made the discourse much better anyway.
No, made it worse.
Yeah, because again, like these algorithms, they aren't taught to make us better as human beings. They're taught to keep us glued to the screen, and the best way they found to do that is to feed us misinformation and yeah, make us upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that, people don't need to be upset if they don't want to be, is the thing. And that's another part of my belief system. I believe that people have the power to control their emotions, and it's not like you can just snap your finger most of the time and, change your mood or anything. But I also think that people need to be mindful of when they're getting dragged into an outrage addiction and they're just being fed outrage because it feels good to be outraged in that moment. Like, outrage addictions are not healthy. We are like, I firmly believe, and this was already a problem to begin with, but the pandemic has made this so much worse. I think we are headed for such a major mental health crisis in a couple years. It's not even funny. Like, too many people are addicted to outrage. Too many people are feeding into this stuff all the time. I think it's particularly bad with younger people when they're in high school and college. And I think it's only going to get worse. And, people can only take responsibility for themselves. How I deal with it, again, align with my spiritual beliefs. I meditate. I take care of my perception, and that's why I don't mind being canceled really all that much, because I know that no one can make me feel something unless I'm allowing them to make me feel that way. And if I feel bad about something, or I feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that thing online, the only thing I need to do is just shut my eyes and meditate, and I can turn it around and make myself feel perfectly fine with the entire situation. I don't have any obligation to feel any way that anyone on Twitter wants me to feel, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. And I think that if more people just focused on themselves, they would probably be a whole lot healthier.
Yeah, and there is a point at which, like, even I, like, as much as I engage in this stuff and enjoy, like, looking at it, right, and doing deep research on things. Like, right now I'm working on a video essay on, like, the opioid epidemic, right, which deeply affected my personal life and also, like, the community that I grew up in Appalachia. But there's still times, right, where I have to, like, put down the Google Scholar searches and and even the news, just like following what's going on in politics, because I understand that I'm getting to a place where I care way too much about stuff that is so far outside of my control, and it's going to do nothing except for make me upset. And I used to allow myself to get really invested in that sort of thing, but now I just I just know when to log off for a little bit, or just go watch a good, like, Netflix show or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a really good point, and I'll tell you, like, doing the white identitarian research, that, oh God, I've never felt so bad in my life. It was really, really bad for me, and I'm still, I think, recovering from burnout from doing this sort of stuff. And so, like, I agree that, like, you need to get offline and go out in the real world. Like, I just got back from London. I was in London for a week, just like bumming around and going to museums and looking at art and stuff like that. Even got vaccinated in order to go, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I did. Um, so I think that people need to realize there's a whole world out there of beautiful things that people are doing right now, and we can all still take advantage of those, even if we're caught up in the news. I wanted to address Third Fig in the chat. He said, but Karlyn, well, I don't know if it's a he.
I
They
think it's a
said,
she,
but
actually,
Karlyn,
but
she said, whatever your gender, however you identify, but Karlyn, have it in mind that no matter the intention, writing inflammatory tweets, even if you have another point in mind, is feeding the outrage machine anyway. No one's forcing you to look at my tweets.
yeah.
Literally, no one's forcing you to look at my tweets.
I think that the difference between, like, and this is the difference between the way you and me see it as well, is that I don't want to play into it in any way, shape, or form if I can avoid it. Right? And in this situation, I considered it somewhat unavoidable due to the fact that, from my perspective, and this is not a perspective that anybody else has introduced yet, You are literally being canceled by people who refuse to listen to you about the actual, very obvious anti-Semites and white identitarians for being the same thing. And I consider that to be a concentrated, almost premeditated attack on your character so that these people can keep on palling around with the actual Nazis and keep their audience as part of their audience, right? And that is something that I cannot abide, and I am more than happy to, embroil myself in the drama in order to deal with that. But otherwise, I would try to avoid doing that just because I don't like to feed into it that much, because I consider. But you don't want it to basically affect the way that you operate at all. You don't want to give it that power over your life, so you just don't even let it enter into your thinking when you're engaging in these spaces. And that's that's definitely a perspective that you can have. I would consider a respectable one as well.
I mean, and I get other points of view on this. Like, at the end of the day, I kind of see Twitter. I think we all have darker sides of ourselves. I think we all have. If you've seen what is that horror movie about the shadow self? You know what I'm talking about? The Get Out sequel. What is the name of that movie? Oh, I can see it in my head. Where they're all in the shadow world and the amusement park. Us. Yeah, that's a great example of like we all have that shadow self of ours that we need to integrate in. Now, I believe that comes out in terms of like, we have like I think every single human being has darker inclinations. I am a fighter. I like fighting with people. I kind of get off on it a little bit. And so I do that on Twitter. That's where I fight. That's where I have war because Twitter is war. That's all it is. And, if I'm going to exist on this platform, I want to be able to use it to frankly serve myself, because if I'm not engaging in war on Twitter, I might be doing it with clients. I might be doing it with my locals community where I don't want to be a raging bitch. Like I might be doing it in any number of areas where it would be far more detrimental to me than doing it on Twitter. So I do see Twitter as a useful tool in that regard to kind of feed into some of my darker instincts so that I can get it out of my system and then go on with my day in other areas. I know people don't understand that. And I know people say, oh, it's still a public platform and you have 80,000 followers or whatever. Hey, that's true enough. But I, at the end of the day, think that, 2% of the population are active on Twitter. And I'm frankly comfortable with alienating 2% of the overall population because I've still got the other 98.
Yeah, and just to respond to Colas in chat, I don't think that Karlyn necessarily views the same metaphors in the movie Us that you and I saw in there after watching like the analysis on it that we probably did. But I know what you're referring to. There's several different theories on what the movie's about. Like some think it's a class analysis, some thinks that it's a like a racial analysis, the way that things work in America.
I think it could be those things as well. I think it's impossible to interpret it in multiple different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's art, right? It's once it's out there, it is. I think that her analysis is that it's a horror movie about what it's about, is what it sounded like, kind of on its face. But yeah, I guess you could explain.
I mean, yeah, like shadow selves are like a spiritual concept where we have our normal self that exists in our day-to-day life, and then we have this kind of like darker entity of ourselves that most people don't even want to acknowledge that like their shadow self exists, and therefore they never fully like this is Jungian. Like people in the chat are saying like Jungian. This is Jungian. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what it is. And I think it easily could be interpreted in multiple different ways, and frankly, even multiple different ways simultaneously. Also, I haven't seen it in a while, so I really don't remember it. Yeah, I don't like Freud.
You don't like Freud? Why?
I don't like Freud. I don't know. I just prefer Jung.
Interesting. Well, that explains your aversion to critical theory, since it's highly reliant on the synthesis between Hegel, Freud, and Kant. So
that would explain it. And Jung was all about tarot cards and other mystical things.
Yeah, you are into like the psychic stuff as well, right? Like that's interesting. Yeah, I don't think that most people that aren't familiar with like your content know that side of you really. Which I was kind of interested. I haven't seen much of it to learn about those that you do. Do you do once a week thing like with the psychic or?
I do on Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. I do a show called Nothing Remotely Controversial with my friend, and he's also actually my life coach in real life. His name is Joshua McGuire. He also goes by Joshua the Psychic. He's a professional psychic and astrologer and tarot card reader and all around metaphysical, like really like smart person. And we do a show together where it's just we talk about the news and whatever's going on, and Joshua tries to psychic what's going to happen in the news, and he actually gets a lot of stuff right. Joshua predicted January 6th on January 5th. He predicted that some big disruptive event was going to happen on January 6th, and then it was going to be like quelled rather quickly. He predicted the Kyle Rittenhouse verdict. He predicted Larry Elder was going to lose. He has predicted a lot. He predicted that Trump was going to lose. Actually, several weeks in a row, he predicted Trump was going to lose. He's already predicted that Trump is not going to run again, so we'll see that.
Well, I hope that the streak continues.
Yeah, I mean, so he really does. He does a fairly good job of getting things in the news right, which, some people would say like, "Oh, you don't need to be a psychic to predict that." We have fun with it. It's a fun show, but no, I do actually believe this stuff in real life. I am actually pretty like I'm not as psychic as Joshua is, but like my intuition is pretty open. Just because of like all the meditating and all the metaphysical work I've done. So I'm like baby psychic, but I'm not like super psychic.
Interesting.
Yeah. And tarot cards are fun. They're just archetypes. They're just archetypes for, what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I've always been told that even if you don't believe in like the mystical side of tarot cards, they can be useful as a meditation tool. To kind of look at things through different angles, I suppose, is the way it's explained. Yeah. But yeah, I don't believe, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I'm not a very spiritual person. I'm a very boring, kind of secular, things are what they are kind of a guy. But yeah, I mean, like I've done my I've had my star chart read, right? It was fun. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think that this is a path. It's like I never used to be spiritual before, and then I kind of discovered it and stumbled upon it, and then just really ended up getting sucked into it quite a bit. But I don't expect people to follow my belief system. I'm not like a Christian that's going to proselytize or try to evangelize to you or try to convert you. I think that's dumb. I think that everyone has their own path. I mean, part of my belief system is that everyone has their own path. Maybe you're not meant to be spiritual right now. Maybe you will be at some point in your life. Maybe you won't be. And that's okay. And I'm not going to tell you. And this is, again, another thing I've experienced with the Christians and why I do like to troll them so much is I get told every single day I'm going to hell.
Yeah.
Like what kind of belief system that promotes the idea that you should damn people who disagree with you to eternal damnation? So people might not like that. I didn't artfully word a tweet to their specifications, but I'm not damning people to an eternity in hell every single day, so I think I'm doing pretty good.
So, to be charitable, I think from their perspective, they think that you're already damned and that they have to save you. So I guess, like, I've always looked at it as, like, if I was genuinely of the opinion that I didn't convince you to, if I didn't genuinely convince you of believing the way that I believe, that you were going to just suffer forever, like, yeah, I would hope that you would try to convince me. Fuck. Like, if that's what you actually think is going to happen to me, then, yeah, that's the same way that, this is just, I'll just speed run my cancellation really fast, right? Like I also believe about like the January 6th protesters. Like if the things were rioters, if you want to call them that, which yeah, they stormed the Capitol. Some of them had like zip ties and shit. Some of them were up to some nefarious shit, right?
If they picked up those zip ties in the Capitol.
Interesting.
They did. That guy with the zip ties picked them up in the Capitol.
Okay.
Anyway,
irregardless, right? If I was under the impression, like, let's say that...
Hang on. Irregardless is not a word.
True, it's a double negative.
Canceled.
Irregardless
is not a...
God damn it. No, but still, like, if the roles were reversed, right, and somebody had told me after Trump had won the election, if Biden had come out and said, like, he sabotaged the post office. He had them throwing out mail-in ballots. He stole the election, and now he's going to institute fascism, and everybody with politics to the left of liberalism is going to be thrown in prison, and your democracy has been stolen from you. Yeah, there are a lot of left-leaning people who would have probably felt very, very justified in actions similar to what happened at the storming of the Capitol in '6 by the right. I feel like I feel like if anything, like if you truly believe that, as I believe, right, that the election was not stolen, that these people were convinced otherwise by social media algorithms, demagogues who were saying otherwise, that I'd be more interested in holding the things that convinced them of that accountable than I would of actually just going after those people because it's just going to continue to happen otherwise, right? If we don't take care of the people who are actually feeding into this dangerous rhetoric, right, then the rhetoric is going to continue and new people are going to continue to be convinced by it. And then the people who are already going to be convinced by it, as we saw with that one gentleman who asked Charlie Kirk the very weird question of like, when are we going to get our guns out and go and liberate our brothers who are being locked up? It's just going to convince the people who are already thinking that way to become more radical. So yeah, I guess like give them like their prison time or whatever you have to for whatever laws they broke, but don't sit here and pay lip service to me that fixes the problem, because it doesn't. Like get Madison Cawthorn out of the Congress if that's how you really feel. Like, you know, take care of those kind of things. But the people in power are never going to be held accountable. It's always the people at the bottom.
Oh yeah, and I mean, listen, I'm a person that I do believe the election was absolutely stolen. And I was there at January 6th. I didn't go in the Capitol. People tried desperately to find video of me in the Capitol. It doesn't exist because I didn't go in the building because I'm not an idiot. But a lot of people were let in through an open door. And so I understand why they did that. And again, I didn't go in the building. But I think the thing of it is too is, after all of that, looking back on it, I was actually really angry. I went to Washington on January 6th because I wanted to see what would happen for myself, because I thought that whatever happened, the media was going to distort it. Not because I thought that Trump was going to be installed as president. I think that was stupid. And I frankly think it was really irresponsible of conservative media in general to allow people to think that was going to happen. I think it was really irresponsible. Now, I actually do understand it, though, because I remember the fine line that I was walking doing my content in between the election and January 6th, because it was like one of those things where I would talk about the fact that I do believe the election was stolen. I do not believe that victory was legitimate. But at the same time, there were some avenues that maybe could have done something, but I did not think it was likely that Trump was going to end up as president at all. And anytime you tried to tell these people that, it was like you immediately got canceled by the right in like the worst possible way. And I remember there was a point where I said, about Sidney Powell, I was like, I don't think there's a Kraken. I don't think there's any there. And it was like, I kind of waited for a little while. I was like, maybe they have something, maybe. But then I went out and said it on Twitter. I was like, I don't think there's a Kraken. I don't believe there's a there. I don't think this is going to work. And I got absolutely attacked and mobbed by the right. And I think a lot of their influencers and a lot of the media outlets were not being responsible and telling them the truth. And that is actually one of the things I really thought about afterwards. When I started talking about the white identitarian stuff, because I was like, you know what? Like, I was pissed at the Q people. I do think that the QAnon movement facilitated all of that on January 6th. Now, not all of it. I do also believe the feds were involved and the feds instigated it, and there were absolutely 100% feds there. But people also have to take responsibility for their own actions. And it's like, it was a combination of the two. And I was really pissed at the QAnon people for their involvement in it. If people, you can go back and watch streams that I did on January 6th and 7th and, really kind of unpacking it all from the perspective of actually being there. I was livid at these people for doing that. And, I think that part of that was because the media was not telling them the truth. And that's something I've thought a lot about in terms of I want to be a person that delivers truth, regardless of whether or not it's what people want to hear. And if people want to act like children and have little hissy fits that they aren't getting their way, that's their business and not mine.
Yeah, no, that's I don't think I've heard that perspective before, as I think it was stolen, but I think that people were given false hope about what they could do to correct that issue.
Hmm.
Obviously, I don't think it was stolen. I don't feel a need to have that debate with you because I don't think that anyone who's watching is going to change their opinion on that at this point.
We can agree to
So yeah, we
disagree.
can just
I
yeah,
don't really
exactly,
care.
pretty
Yeah.
much agree to disagree on
Biden
that
is the
one.
president. It is what it is. I'm not happy about it, but what can I do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll take it, but I'm not jumping for joy either. Is where I stand
Yeah.
with him pretty much at this point. Yeah, he's done president things, and they weren't impressive enough to prevent Republicans from winning back large swaths of the country, as we saw in these gubernatorial elections. So it
Well,
is what
I
it is.
firmly believe the Republicans are going to screw it up by the midterms. I firmly believe whatever happens with this Roe decision is going to screw the Republicans over in the midterms. So I do not have high hopes. And again, I'm a libertarian. I'm not voting Republican at all. The Republicans have permanently lost my vote for how they've treated me.
God bless you.
Um, I'm not going to help them win. Absolutely not. They deserve to lose. But I absolutely I think a lot of people think they're going to sail to victory. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Roe decision is going to screw it is going to screw it up. And I also frankly think not so much in 2022. I don't think this is going to be an issue, but I think there's going to be a libertarian spoiler in 2024. And the Republicans should be getting ready for that, and they're not.
So so you think that the Roe decision is going to mobilize Democratic voters, basically?
Yes. I think that every single, so if we look at the governor of Virginia, obviously that was one on critical race theory. It was one because of the moms, because the moms didn't like what their kids were learning in school. But the fact of the matter is if Roe v. Wade actually ends up getting repealed by the Supreme Court,
It will
and
by
again, I
June.
don't,
There's no way that it
yeah,
isn't at this
oh,
point.
oh yeah, it absolutely will happen in the spring or by June, and that's going to be right before the midterms. And it's like, I don't understand how Republicans truly think that Democrats are just going to take this line down and have a calm conversation about states' rights. Because the line that the Republicans are using is well, it's not going to make abortion illegal, it's just going to leave it up to the states.
That
Now,
makes it
I'm
illegal in large swaths of the country. It's the same thing to us. Yeah, you're exactly correct. We don't care. We're not interested in hearing the states' right discussion.
Oh, I know, and I think it's a stupid discussion too, to be quite frank. And I'm someone who literally wants the state of New Hampshire to secede from the union. Like, I literally want us to secede from the union, and I still think this is a stupid discussion. But it's like the Republicans really don't understand that even if abortion is still legal in parts of the country, it doesn't even matter because Roe v. Wade is one of the third rail issues that will mobilize every single woman ever in the history of ever. And so every single person that this Virginia governor's race that won the Virginia's governor race for the Republicans will never vote for the Republicans again.
Uh oh. I just dropped Discord again. Damn it. Damn it, chat. Sorry. Sorry. 1 second. I need more RAM. I need more RAM. No, it's not even the internet. It's my my RAM is performing very poorly. Let's see. Yeah, sorry about that. Hold on, let me pull this up. Oh, hold on, let me respond to this. Okay, let's see. There's this. All right, video on, and pop this out. Bingo, we're back, I think.
We're back. We're back. We're back. Um, no, I was just saying though, I think that Republicans do not understand that they are going to lose absolutely every single voter that they gained in 2020 that maybe wasn't a conservative but voted for Trump anyway because we thought that Trump was better than the alternative. They're going to lose every single woman that voted for them in Virginia over the schools because Roe v. Wade is going to be a substantially more important issue. and they really don't understand this. And it's like, I feel like I'm one of those people that it's like when you're driving down the street and a rock is about to hit the windshield of your car and you can see it coming in slow motion and you're just like, no, don't hit my windshield. No, but you can see the rock coming, then it hits your windshield and all of a sudden you got a big crack in your windshield. That's what I feel like I'm watching right now. Like the rock comes slowly at the car, and the Republicans are just not listening. They're not paying attention. So no, I think this is going to doom them. But I also want to say to I don't know how to pronounce your name, Culis in the chat. Culis, I don't know, Cuils. He says or she says I have no wrinkles and I look good on camera, and so I'll take that for 40 years old. I'll take no wrinkles for 40
Oh
years
my
old.
goodness.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, and also QS, I've said plenty of things that she hasn't agreed with, and we just agree to disagree most of the time. It's very
Yeah.
she follows me on Twitter, and I'm sure that she's seen me argue with
I
Sean
have
West's
alerts
people on there.
set up. I have alerts set up for you on Twitter.
Oh no.
Yeah, I
I'm
do.
so sorry. Yeah, no, I have that's funny. I have alert set up for Rufo and Lindsay as well. So that's what I subject myself to.
Lindsay's tweets are awesome. Don't lie. Lindsay is
Oh
awesome.
no.
Lindsay is the king of Twitter. Rufo has gotten so corporate in his Twitter now. It's so corporate. I'm like, whatever, dude. Lindsay's the king.
So,
Lindsay is who I model my Twitter after.
I could see like some of it being funny with Lindsay, but what's really concerned me lately and made it stop being as funny, to be just very honest, is the critical gender theory stuff, where he's like talking about grooming kids, and I'm just like, okay, is that really the rhetoric that we want to use over this, or what's going on there, buddy?
I agree and I disagree at the same time. I do think that I'm not quite where Lindsay is on the grooming stuff. I'm not quite there. But I do think that there's a lot going on with social emotional learning in schools where it's not being practiced as though it was meant. I understand the idea of social emotional learning had positive intention, but how it's being practiced in a lot of schools is teachers practicing psychology without a license. And there was a story that came out in New Hampshire just the other day about a masturbation club being formed in a high school here. And there was a prank on a teacher. And it was basically like, it was this story that was told at a school board meeting. I covered it on my channel the other day, actually. Like, it is a story that was told at a school board meeting of a teacher basically saying, these kids are out of control. I've tried everything. They don't listen. Social emotional learning is not working. And it's like, what this stuff is leading to is kids just not having any semblance of decorum at all in the schools. I think we're going to see, again, a lot of mental health problems in the schools because of this bullshit. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite on the grooming bandwagon that Lindsay's on.
Yeah, because
but
he's
I think his tweets are funny.
yeah, his tweets are something. They're sometimes funny, and sometimes I'm just like, oh buddy, that's not what that. Okay, but yeah, no, with me, I guess what it comes down to is I actually do listen to his Better Discourses podcast. And I listened to like 2 hours the other day about a conspiracy between Marxist and teachers to like groom kids and rob them of their sexual innocence due to the fact that it makes them more prone to being revolutionary. And I was like, okay, man, come on now. Come on. Like, it's a little bit too conspiratorial for me at that point. I don't know.
But I mean, here's the thing. Listen, I don't agree with him on that front. I don't think that there is evidence of that I've seen. But Lindsay understands where stuff is going. And so do I see him as kind of an imperfect prophet in some sense? I mean, he's been right about an awful lot. He's kind of like Alex Jones in that respect, where I'm like,
God.
You sound crazy, but every once in a while you turn out to be right. And I'd say the same thing at Tim Pool, honestly. Like, I think the way Tim Pool puts information together is interesting. I think that I disagree with the Civil War stuff. I don't necessarily think he's wrong about everything. So I don't know. I think sometimes when you have these individuals that are highly intelligent in their own way, and I think that James Lindsay is like a genius. He is genius level in the way that he looks at and processes and retains information. It is astounding. I think Tim Pool is very smart. I think Alex Jones, for all his flaws, is a very smart person. You cannot discount the success that Alex Jones has had. And I think that sometimes when you have these people that are operating on that level, they're going to sometimes say weird shit that doesn't stick, right? But in the midst of them working through information and processing information, they're going to get a lot right too. So I don't hold everyone to a 100% standard of perfection on this stuff. I think they're all geniuses in their own way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess where we would differ there is that I see it as kind of a, if you throw enough shit at the wall, some of it will stick, but your wall is still covered in shit at the end of the day. Deal.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There are probably people on the left that do that I'm a lot more forgiving of. I can actually think of a few that are very inflammatory in their rhetoric and what they say is going on. Like, all the Republicans are basically fascist, right? Like, if you're a Republican in this country at this point, you're either a fascist or you're tolerant of fascism, and you're knowingly tolerant of fascism. And it's like, maybe this isn't the best way for us to have productive discourse with people. I was actually talking with no, I wasn't talking with Sansel was talking about this on his stream earlier. He's another streamer here on Twitch. That you might be interested in talking to. They're usually pretty good faith and yeah, not very debate broy with conservatives unless the person is being like a complete mask off race realist, for example. But yeah, they were talking about how like we're just divided into our own like we're segregating ourselves based on political ideology, right? We no longer actually talk to the other side because disagreement is seen as something that is so abhorrent and objectionable, right? Like you can't disagree with somebody on one issue. And if you disagree with them on that one issue, then like discussion is off the table. It's considered taboo to have it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to talking to pretty much everyone and anyone as long as they will have a civil dialogue. I have no issue with that. So maybe I was on I think I was on oh God, what is his name? That Hans, is that what his name is?
Yeah, I used to produce his panel, yeah.
Yeah. So I was on Sansa was on that, I think, and he seemed fine. So no, I mean, I think that you know, I think the irony of the fact that I get dragged for making a PragerU video all the time is that the PragerU video was about not seeing your political opponents as your enemies. And I do think that that's a very important message. And to be quite frank, that is something that the right was at that time. I don't know that they're receptive to it anymore, but they were very receptive to it. They didn't want to see the left as their enemies. They just felt as though that there was nothing that they could do to be seen as like real people to them. And I think that the idea of productive discourse, like it's the only thing that's going to bring us back together. I don't know. I'm pretty black-pilled at this point. It's one of the reasons I'm really glad that I live in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire has a thriving libertarian population, and we have the Free State Project, and so I'm like, you know, insofar as like-minded communities, I'm in the best place for libertarians to be because we have a like-minded community of people. We have a lot of libertarian representation in our state government. We have a lot of libertarian policy, and I don't really have faith that the broader electorate is going to find it within themselves to have civil discussion and dialogue with each other anymore. I mean, we can have civil discussion and dialogue. I can have it with anyone. But I think more broadly, I'm losing faith in the collective to do this. I think that there is so much talk about a national divorce, which I don't think would work out as nicely as people think it would work out. I think it's a dumb idea to begin with. But like I said, I'm completely in favor of New Hampshire seceding from the Union. I'd be fine with that. And I think that that's as far as I would go for national divorce. But I don't want to have to constantly be fighting with my neighbor. And I think that the very best thing that any of us can do is make sure we're living in communities with people who think like us, to be honest, because I do think things are starting to segregate out more.
Yeah, they are. But I feel like that segregation almost, how do I put this? I feel like us dividing into our own echo chambers just feeds more and more like polarization, right? And that started with the internet. Like I looked at a study a couple of weeks ago because I got basically 3 video essays that I go back and forth working on because of ADD. But eventually all 3 of them will be finished and it'll be fun. But one of them is also about like, you know, the online radicalization that we've seen since the advent of the internet and how it's become easier and easier to radicalize people without them even leaving their homes. And one of the things that I looked at was the study that showed like with the advent of 3G, political polarization like increased immediately, like within the next year, because people had like all this information about politics at their fingertips all the time, and that was just never something that they had to deal with before. So it
Mm-hmm.
was easy to become obsessed. It was easy to become just stuck in these echo chambers and constantly feeding yourself like reaffirming things to your own beliefs. Whereas before, like you had to actually go out and talk to people who disagreed with you, because in the real world there are going to be people who disagree with you sometimes, and you have to figure out how to have those conversations in such a way that it's not just like, oh well, you're a fascist, or you're a communist, or which, funnily enough, by the way, I was going to say the reason that I moved to Austin was because I was told that all these California commies were moving down here to turn it into a Marxist utopia. So I too am very satisfied with where I live now.
It's the way it should be. Austin's a cool city.
It's
It's a little
pretty.
too gentrified for me these days, but I think it's a very cool city.
It is it is very gentrified. Yeah, I think the housing value of the suburbs here like increased double within the last 5 years.
Yeah,
So if you bought a
that
house five
sounds.
years ago, good job.
It's the same thing happening in New Hampshire. I bought my house a little over 10 years ago, and it in the last 3 years, actually, it like doubled in value. So I'm pretty happy with where I live. I want to point out, like someone said in the chat, like she wants us to balkanize. I don't want that. I want us all to be able to live and have civil dialogue. I just don't see the way things are going. I just don't see a way around it. And so, am I going to be disappointed that I happen to live in the libertarian utopia of New Hampshire? No. Like I live in the best place for me. It sounds like you live in the best place for you. And in some respect, I think that, you know, I genuinely hope that something happens that turns us around. I really do. Like, I want people to be able to get along and agree to disagree and, just be normal, civilized human beings that understand that people are complex creatures and they have a wide variety of views and perspectives. And sometimes those views and perspectives and ideas and beliefs will contradict each other because human beings are messy. Like, that would be my ideal state. I just don't know how possible that is anymore. Um, and if we have to separate, if we have to kind of like learn to exist peacefully, I kind of think that the best way we can do that is just acknowledge like the relationship's not working out. Listen, you progressives can have New York, you can have Massachusetts, you can have California. We'll take
We'll take
we'll
Texas too.
take
It looks like,
we'll
by the
take
way.
New Hampshire. You know what? Like Texas is not as like I don't know why Republicans like Texas so much. Texas is like there was a free state ranking list that just came out last week that ranks New Hampshire number 1, Florida number 2, so we beat Florida. But Texas is like number
Well,
21.
they're Republicans, not libertarians. That's why.
Well, that's exactly why. And so yeah, you guys can have Texas too. I don't really care. As long as I
Yeah,
get New Hampshire, I don't really care.
yeah, I don't. So the reason that I don't think that balkanization is I think that once people, even if it did get enough popular support, and it's nowhere near there now, started to see
Yeah.
kind of the logistical issues with like supply lines and whatnot. And, like there was a big California secession movement when Trump was president, right?
Yeah,
But if
there
you,
still is.
yeah, but if you look at like
Hmm.
the fact that the state would run out of water in 4 years, and they're not going to get that water from Russia, right? Like,
Hmm.
then it starts to become a little bit of a problem, right?
Hmm.
And if these places are balkanizing because they disagree with each other politically, how are they going to be able to agree to trade agreements? How are people going to be able to get like the things that they need for the electric grid to run? There's just way too much stuff that makes it like very convenient for us to not balkanize, in my opinion. That yeah. But then again, right? Like faced with that reality, you hope that people would make the decision not to screw themselves economically. But then you look at Brexit, and you're just like, huh, I don't know. Maybe that wouldn't be the case. Maybe people wouldn't think critically about that part of it.
I mean, hey, listen, like I said, I was just in the UK a couple weeks ago. Things seemed fine, to be really honest.
Yeah.
Like they aren't going to hell in a handbasket. But no, I mean, I think it's kind of like the same thing of like what happens when a married couple with kids that fight all the time gets a divorce, right? They were fighting all the time when they were married because the marriage had run its course and they still have kids, so they need to learn how to get along with the kid for the kids. And a lot of couples, once they get divorced and they leave that marriage, they actually get along just fine. And the kids are fine, and they do they do their thing. Now, not all the time, obviously, but I want to leave space for the fact that we can have a peaceful divorce and still be adults and say, you know what, we live on the same like big plot of land. Even though you're going your separate way and I'm going mine, but we need to be able to get along in order to survive and have the things that we want. So I don't know, probably dare to dream, but I do think that New Hampshire will secede at some point in the future, or
Really?
at least, oh, I really do, or nullify it. I 100% do. 100%. So not soon. I'm not saying soon, but give it 10 years, maybe.
That soon? Okay, well, that's a conversation for another time then, because that's yeah, that'd be interesting if it happened within the next 10 years. I figured that you'd be like saying like the next 50 or so, but
No,
that soon.
I think we do 10. Well, there's a bill in the New Hampshire House right now to bring secession up for a vote, and it has the support of like 10 different, it's being sponsored by like 10 different lawmakers. So it's a real thing here. Like the
Yeah,
libertarians in New
but then
Hampshire have actual political power.
doesn't that have to be ratified then by 2/3 of the
Nope.
federal Congress? I believe.
No. No, we just say we're going and we're not paying income tax anymore.
I don't know. Yeah, because again, then I guess so. Technically, constitutionally, the law is that it has to be ratified by 2/3 of the other states, like Congress elects. But if you're just going to say no, fuck you, we don't care about that part of the Constitution, we're not going to pay your income tax anymore. At that point, their only option is to extract tax through, well, what we understand is the only means that the government has to extract tax under, which is their monopoly on violence. So I don't know if they'd go that far.
Well, if you haven't seen it, it's worth watching the episode that Jeremy Kaufman had on Tim Pool's show. Which again, like you guys know, I'm not the biggest Tim Pool fan, but I am the biggest fan of Jeremy Kaufman. He's the CEO of Library and Odyssey, and he is he works with the Free State Project in New Hampshire. And he was talking about this very issue, and the point that he made that I thought was very good is, what is the biggest libertarian movement in the United States? It's the Amish. The Amish just one day said, well, the Amish just said, we're not going to pay income tax. Sorry, we're going to live here. This is our land. We're going to do our thing. We're not going to pay income tax. The government never went after them. It was a big enough group of people where it would have been problematic for the government to go after them. So because they as a collective all said, nope, not doing it, the government left them alone to do their thing. And it's like, there's no reason that that can't happen as a state level. And also, by the way, it is in our state constitution that we can do this. And so, I mean, would it work out that way? Do I think that the federal government would invade the sovereign kingdom of New Hampshire if we decided to secede to extract income tax? No. They might build a wall around us. They might try to make it difficult for us to fly in and out into other areas of the country, but ultimately, I don't think they would go to war with us to try to make us stay.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. At that point, it does become kind of the who do you trade with for the supplies that you can't get domestically, and do you take the hit domestically to yeah, do you do degrowth? I guess is the question, which is what I have to ask people that are very far to the left of me, right? That want to like get to a point where we stop the expansion of the economy for the sake of profit, right? Like they don't seem to be willing to contend with the fact that buddy, you sit at the computer and play like video games all day. You're not going to be able to get your nice like graphic card that some kid in Zimbabwe dug out of the ground to put in your
Mhm.
computer anymore. Like degrowth is going to affect your day to day life. So yeah, if you're willing to go that far and understand that there's an initial hit to the economy and there may even be like initial goods and services and medicine that you don't have access to anymore for a little bit. Um,
Well, the fact of the matter is, I mean, we do have a border with Canada. We have that. We do have a sea coast. We have that. We can have a port. So, I mean, like, would it be a hit? Yeah, maybe. But we also are pretty like, I mean, like it's reasonably self-sufficient here, to be honest. Like there are a lot of people that are there are a lot of different industry here. So I don't know. I like there are people who've studied it more than I have. I've actually had the guy on my channel. His name is Alu. We've talked about this, and he's written a whole book about it, and he runs a site called libertyblock.com where he's written all this stuff out about it and all the consequences of it. So there are a lot of people who have thought it through far more than I have that would be better to talk to, but I think that long term for me, again, given where things are going, I think it's probably the best decision. Um, but I'm open to being wrong about that, and I'm open to things changing. I don't know. We'll
Oh,
see.
and my buddy Sansel that I was telling you about said that he wanted to jump in and ask you a couple of questions.
Oh,
He's not going to
sure.
be a debate bro, he said. So, um,
That's fine. I gotta leave in like half hour, but that's fine. That's fine.
no worries. Yeah, I just figured he can catch you on the tail end, and then maybe you guys can set up a time to talk in the future if
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, everything seems good.
All right.
Let's bring him in. Want to expose you to the parts of Twitch that aren't going to get you yelled at on
Just
Twitter
as
for.
long as you never bring on Jangles.
Okay, no. We won't. We don't even talk about. We don't talk about you and Jangles
He,
is here, and we don't talk about Jangles if you are here. That is the
he who
rules.
shall he who shall not be named.
Yes, exactly. Um, what's up, Sansel?
Howdy, how's it going?
Not bad, man. Not bad. We were
Hello.
just yeah, finishing up. We had a yeah, decent conversation. We determined that Karlyn is in fact not a Nazi, so that's refreshing.
Oh, wow. I'm glad that we come to this revelation. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's she said that the Holocaust is bad, and that she believes that it happened, and that the numbers were accurate, and everything is Gucci there. It's just still really interesting to me how quickly
So that's a
everybody.
that's really brave. That's incredibly
Yeah,
brave.
yeah.
I'm so Listen, I don't know why anyone would take away from like those tweets that she's a Nazi. That's not what I took away from it. I just um you can stop me at any point because I'm just like curious about like the worldview that you have,
Yeah.
more
Okay.
in like a theological way. Um, so like when you say like everyone chooses to like, do they choose the manner of their death and everything? I'm just like super interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think for big event, like if we're talking like a big event like the Holocaust, yeah, I do actually think that people chose to be a part of that, but not as a human. They didn't make that choice when they were a human. They made that choice in spirit form for a larger spiritual purpose. I do believe that, when we talk about big kind of like earth-shattering events in someone's life, whether they get into a car wreck or they get killed or, something or in a plane crash or something like that, I do believe that that is a choice. Now, when I do also, to be fair though, I don't believe people just make this choice about their death. I think that they make every choice about their life, who my parents are, what types of lessons am I going to learn, where am I going to grow up, what type of experiences am I going to have. I think they make lots of choices. Um, and I think that where people are kind of missing the boat is I'm not talking about making a choice as like a human being would, like I would, or Spectre would, or anyone else
Like a
like
rational actor, like as in
yeah.
like the human thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we're making this choice as a being that knows that we never really die. If we die in our human form, we're still going to be alive in spirit. We're still going to be able to go home to where we came from in spirit. And we come here to learn certain lessons and then to GTFO and to go back up into the spirit realm. I believe we're spiritual beings living a human existence.
And also, just to clarify, the reason that the Holocaust was even brought up, that was not brought up as an example by Karlyn. She was talking about abortion to troll like conservative Christians, and they brought up the Holocaust as a consistency check, and then immediately labeled her an anti-Semite for basically responding to the consistency check the way that you would expect somebody to respond if they were being consistent. And it's just really interesting that they were
No,
very quick
yeah,
to
I know how it works.
they were very
Yeah.
quick to label her an anti-Semite, but they haven't labeled the actual anti-Semites that she's been yelling at them about for the past like months or so. I think
Yeah,
it's been like
that's
4 or since June.
Since June, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fucking cringe. So when you say like everyone chooses these things beforehand, do you see the world as like or like the universe or, the material plane that we inhabit, depending on whatever your worldview is? Do you see that
Mhm.
as predetermined, like the clockmaker type thing that God or whatever being created the universe, just kind of made everything? Everything is predetermined and it just goes. Because
No.
that's no.
No, well, because what's missing out of that is I don't think that there's one almighty being in the sky that's like playing puppet master with all this stuff. I believe that we are all the gods of our human experience, right? I believe that we're all little parts of God that come to have a human experience. And so like I do believe these decisions are made separately. They're not made by one almighty being. And also we do have free will once we come here. So we can make choices that are not, as a human, that are not in line with what our soul really wants at the end of the day. So I don't think everything's predetermined. I think that everyone has free will to decide to do or not do whatever they want. I just think that people's lives tend to be a lot easier and better and more fulfilling when they follow the path that their soul has decided on. There's just less, there's more consistency with it. And so I think it's usually a better idea to kind of figure out what your path is supposed to be and roll with it. But I don't think your path is predetermined by any almighty being by any means.
So so if we set out these things, how do we know if we're actually doing what our soul wanted to do then?
Yeah, I mean, I like
Is
what
there
comes.
ever any way to know?
Yeah, absolutely. What comes easy to you? What are you excited about? What feels good? Like for me, like the only reason that I even stuck with YouTube and all this stuff is because it was easy. I
Mhm.
grew to 100,000 subs in less than a year. Like it was easy for me. And I believe that when things are easy, that's probably the path that we are supposed to be on for some reason. And I fought it. I did not want to do YouTube professionally at all in any way. And but it's like I saw it as something where I was given an opportunity to talk to a lot of people, to help people in the way that I could help them. And wouldn't it be completely ungrateful of me not to take that opportunity if it's given to me? I mean, and it did feel like it was given to me. I was very lucky and very blessed in that regard. So I think that people should be able to know what their path is based on just like what feels good, like what inspires us, what are we excited about, what do we want to run towards. And then I think a lot of people get caught up in this idea, especially when they get into the professional world of like work feels like drudgery. It feels like misery. They hate going to their job every day. Well, that might be a sign that you're not doing the thing that you should be doing, and you should really go get another job that's going to make you a lot happier.
Interesting. Okay, that's just really cool. I read your tweets, and like just seeing the one that is circulating with the, like people chose to die in the Holocaust thing. Like it was seeing it out of context is kind of funny. It's just like, okay, but it's interesting seeing it be more of a theological thing.
Yeah.
So do you think that oh fuck, I just lost my train of thought. Do you think that when people is there any way that someone dies without it being a choice? Like if someone were to make a free will choice out of what their soul wanted and out of what someone else's soul wanted, like they just murder them. Is
Mhm.
that possible, or is there? Sorry, I'm not trying to like call
No,
inconsistencies. I'm
it's
just
okay.
like genuinely interested.
No. It's okay. I think you're acting in good faith.
Yeah.
No, I think that at the end of the day, like I think that the choice is always made, but it's usually on a deeply subconscious level. So I'm not saying the human actively goes into it, but at the same time, like haven't we all heard those stories of people who like, especially like older people who they tend to like die in their sleep overnight, right? Like
Mhm.
or like they like we I heard a story just the other day of like someone went to a museum and there was a photo in the museum that said this person like made the choice to go to bed that night and pass on. Or we've heard about people who like maybe like they're older and the wife dies like 3 days after the husband. Like I have to think that's a choice on some level. They just said, okay, I'm done, I'm out. So no, I do always think it's a choice on some level. And even if it's that choice that I was listening to a stream earlier today of like an afterlife interview. There's a channel on YouTube called Channeling Eric where they do these afterlife interviews with people who've died. And I was listening to the stream with John McCaffrey talking about how like he didn't commit suicide, like that wasn't his choice,
Mhm.
but he made the decisions that put himself in the position where he was at odds with the government who made the choice to suicide him, right? So
Mhm.
maybe it's the culmination of a lot of different decisions, but I do think that people are making the decision nonetheless.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I don't think I have any other questions. I just I find theological conversations really interesting, and I find when someone has a some kind of spiritual you know, I want I hesitate to say theory, but like some kind of spirituality that I've never heard of. I find it interesting to talk about that with them. Um,
Yeah. I'm
I
happy to do a stream with you sometime and talk about it. And like, I love talking about this stuff. I just don't get a chance too often.
I would consider myself like an agnostic person. I don't think that there's
Mhm.
any way for us to know one way or another if there is a God or if there are spirits. Like I feel like that's totally outside of the human experience to possibly know. At least right now, like maybe in the future we could invent some sort of soul detecting device or something like that. But um, as it stands right now, and for the definitely the foreseeable future, I don't think that that's something that's going to be within our capabilities. So I just find the conversations interesting rather than like angering if someone's spiritual or if they're not spiritual or whatever. So
Yeah, I mean, and my belief system isn't new. It's been around for like 5,000 years. It was taught in the mystery schools in Egypt. It's just like, and people might think of it as New Age today because I had a resurgence in the 70s and I got called New Age, which
mhm.
I think is dumb. But no, I mean, I think like for me, I don't like, I have all the proof that I need of it, but I also understand that I don't have tangible scientific proof of it. My proof comes in the way of meditation. It comes in the way of intuition. It comes in the way of ayahuasca ceremonies. It comes in the way of, doing that sort of stuff. And so that I completely understand that I'm not going to provide proof to anyone who requires proof, but nor do I actually feel an obligation to provide proof because it's faith.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's
It's
the name
faith.
of the faith? Because people have been asking. Do you know
It's not
or?
no, I mean it goes by a bunch of different names like all over the world. Like this is a belief I've literally had teachers in South America, in Asia, in the US, in like all over the place. It's called different things everywhere. That's why I just refer to it as spiritual. But if you want books that will introduce you to the idea of it. Conversations with God is a book that I always ask people to read because it's not a Christian book at all, and in fact, the Christians hate it, as I found out over the last couple of days. But that is a book that will introduce you to like some of the ideas of it. If you want a thicker, more religiousy book, A Course in Miracles will tell you about it. But I mean, this is a belief system that's been around for like a really long time. It's just like there's not a consistent name for it, so I don't give one.
I guess the last thing I'll ask and then I'll hop off. So this all sprung out of a conversation about abortion, right?
I was trolling Christian conservatives about abortion, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I just wanted to make sure. So, do you think that any kind of spirituality should ever take should be a part of the decision on abortion, or do you think that is that what you were trolling them on?
The political decision on abortion or the personal
Yeah.
decision on abortion?
I mean, you give me the answer for both. Now I'm interested. I was only thinking about the political.
Yeah, I don't think that people should ever legislate based on their religious or spiritual beliefs. I am very, very firm on this. I don't believe Christians should be legislating based on their spiritual beliefs. I don't think I should be legislating based on my spiritual beliefs. No, it came up in, I mean, should it take place in terms of like personal decisions? Yeah, well, yeah, sure. I mean, it is a personal decision, but the way it came up is I was asked, is abortion a moral wrong? And then they were trying to get me to say we should legislate abortion because it's moral wrong. Well, I don't necessarily believe abortion is a moral wrong because I don't believe we ever really die, and I believe that there might be a purpose for that baby being aborted, and that's how it started. And then they said,
Mhm.
oh well, if that's true for abortion, is it true for murder? Yes. If that's true for murder, is it true for the Holocaust? Yes. I knew I was playing into a trap, but I don't really care because I'm not going to play these games with people on Twitter. I'm going to say what I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, props to you for being consistent, and I don't think that like the statement itself is like necessarily reprehensible, like in a vacuum, even. So yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I'll take a look at some of those books that you talked about, or if you have like a link to something that I could read while I'm just kind of sitting around before stream. I'd love that. Or if you ever want to set up a conversation on my stream about it. Yeah.
I would absolutely love to have a conversation anytime. 100%.
All right.
I'll look for something and send it to you if I can come up with something easy.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and hop out. Thanks for having me on, bud.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime, man. Yeah, good to see you. How you going?
Catch you guys.
Bye.
Right on. Yeah. So, I suppose he was just curious about Yeah, spirituality side of things. Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I want to say Forever Wild 93 says if you go to places like Sedona, you'll meet a lot of communities who follow this type of spirituality. I love Sedona. Sedona is one of my favorite places in the world. It's got such beautiful energy. And yeah, there are a lot of people in Sedona who practice this.
Interesting. Where's that at, Sedona?
It's in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
Sedona's beautiful in general. It's like a great hiking, and it's just like, I mean, it's an amazing place.
Yeah, no, I do like hiking, and especially in desert areas. That was one of the things that I enjoyed about being out west, like in the Los Angeles area of the country. But then again, I'm from Appalachia, nothing's ever going to beat those mountains.
I don't know, man. Come to New Hampshire. We got the White Mountains here. Come up to Porkfest. We'll make you an anarchist.
Oh, no. I was an anarchist for a little bit, just not the kind that you would appreciate.
Not that kind of
not that kind of anarchist.
All right, my friend. Well, I got to go in a little bit. Anything else you want to ask before I hop off?
No, I think that we have beaten all the glue from this discourse, horse of a discourse that we can. And it's yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's much else that we could cover. I'm probably gonna continue on with like the stuff that I had already researched on with like the UK drug stuff and the radicalization things. But it was a pleasure talking to you as always. And yeah, I hope that this kind of goes away and you can go back to hopefully successfully drawing attention to these Nazis that are co-opting certain elements of right-wing movements right now.
Well, maybe, but I did start today the anti-Semitism challenge on Twitter, which is I have been challenging especially blue checks that have taken it upon themselves to cancel me, to actually call out legitimate anti-Semites. And so if anyone watching would like blue checks to actually call out really bad people, you can encourage them to do that in their comments. I don't know if they'll listen to me. I don't know if they'll listen to any of us, but I have started the anti-Semitism challenge. The information is pinned to the top of my tweets because I'm not bending the knee to these people. They can F off. And life always goes back to normal. Listen, like being canceled is not the worst thing in the world. And I actually look forward to continuing to stick around to piss off these conservatives who want me to shut up so very badly. And I really look forward to spoiling their little party in 2024 when the libertarians spoil their election. And I think that is actually going to happen. And at least as the way things are going right now. And I'm thrilled to be a part of that because these people are idiots and they deserve to lose.
Yes, critical support to the libertarians who are keeping the Republicans out of office, everybody. Just no complaints here. None whatsoever. Just keep on doing that.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on, Spectre. I appreciate it. And thank you for the nice, refreshing conversation.
Yeah, of course. Have a good one.
Yeah, I'll see you later.